rain falling in Red Clay in Florida, I wanted to make things. When my brothers and sisters were making mud pies, I would be making small little animal figures like ducks and chicken. Hi, my name is Augusta Savage. Throughout my life, I experienced racism and sexism because I was black. I wasn't allowed to go to college because of my race. I created a bus on my nephew called Jammin', and that won me a scholarship to go to school. I was a part of the Harlem Renaissance and became the first African American to be elected into the National Association of Women Painters and Sculptors. Later in life, I settled down and became a summer camp art teacher and eventually passing away from cancer. I hope my inspiration has gotten to you and you go out and create something new. Thanks for listening.
Hello, my name is Jonas Salk. I was born on October 28, 1914, in New York City. I grew up with my brothers and our parents, moving around a lot. Because of this, I was unable to go to school a lot until high school. After high school, I went to college at the age of 15. After college, I went to medical school. Some hardships that I had to face were the fact that I was a Jewish American and I faced a lot of racism and anti-Semitism. I am most known for the polio vaccine, a vaccine for the polio virus that could cure it. I'm important to America because by 1965, I almost completely eradicated the disease from America. I passed away on June 23rd, 1995, at the age of 80 from heart complications. The end.
Have you ever heard the song Eyes of Innocence? If you haven't, well, that's a shame. Hello, my name is Gloria Estefan. When I was a little girl, I liked to write poetry and I took classic guitar lessons. I had no interest in becoming a favorite music guitar star. Music played a very important role as a child. I later on joined the band called Miami Sun Machine. This made me famous for singing. This was important to me because when my father was ill, music was my escape. Music was the only way I had to let things go. Hope you learned something new. Thank you for listening.
I think because I was the first Chinese tennis player to win a Grand Slam, people were thinking, she's not like normal people. I stated after achieving this title. This was intended to show that no matter your gender or ethnicity, everyone has the same capabilities. Hi, I'm Lena, and I'm best known for becoming the first Chinese tennis player to win a Grand Slam. I'm hardworking, determined, and strong, which led to my positive contribution to America. I was born on February 26, 1982, in Wuhan, China. I had a sporty childhood as my father was a professional badminton player. Due to this, he influenced me to try the sport when I was just 4 years old. 2 years later, my coaches insisted I try tennis instead. I loved it until my confidence was severely broken due to the dad of my new coaches. And if it weren't for my father, I wouldn't have been able to stick to the game. The journey leading up to becoming the tennis player I am today came with many struggles. For example, people used stereotypes against me involving my gender and ethnicity to prove that I wasn't good enough. This often brought pressure on me as well as the rest of the community. I overcame this by turning that pressure into motivation, and at the Porsche Grand Prix tournament in 2008, I did just that. I defeated Serena Williams and became the second Chinese to do so. I later won 2 Grand Slam titles in 2011 and 2014. After becoming known throughout the world, I was able to influence people to strive for what they want most in life. I retired from the sport in 2014, and I'm currently living with my husband and 2 children. I have a net worth of $50 million, so I'm financially stable. That being said, I haven't had many lifestyle changes since my childhood. Thank you for listening.
My name is Wilfredo Lam. I was most known for my creative painting and my creative imagination. I was born on December 8, 1902, on Sabela Grande, Cuba. On 1960, my family settled in Havana when I was 14. When I was 16, I started to study art at Havana's School of Fine Art. In 1937, I settled in Barcelona and came in contact with a much more dynamic community. I died on September 11, 1982 at the age of 80. Thank you for listening.
There's so many women who need to be inspired, encouraged to go after their dreams, their goals, their aspirations, because we all have that champion within us. Born in Miami Beach and raised in LA, I'm the daughter of the famous boxer Muhammad Ali, and I later decided to follow in my father's footsteps and leave behind my own legacy. I was a women's boxing prodigy, both a powerful and inspirational woman who endured many problems in life. My name is Layla Ali, and I retired as an undefeated boxer with a 24-0 record and received many awards for my accomplishments. I was born on December 30th, 1997, and my father was Muhammad Ali, and his wife was Veronica Porsche Ali, and I had an older sister named Hannah. Unfortunately, when I was 8 years old, my parents got divorced and my mother had to take custody of both me and my sister. We were never rich or higher class growing up, but we had enough money to live comfortably. As I became a teenager, I started getting into trouble. I hung out in the bad parts of LA, and I got arrested several times for shoplifting and stealing my mother's car, and I got 3 months in a juvenile detention hall. Thankfully, got my act together and attended Santa Monica University, and I worked at a nail salon in Marina del Rey. I overcame many problems before becoming famous. I was able to deal with the divorce of my parents, and I was able to turn around my bad attitude and bad behavior to become a better person. My father was a famous boxer, which might have had an influence on why I started boxing. But the main reason I started boxing was because I would see women's boxing on TV at the nail salon, and I thought it was amazing how women could fight so well, and I wanted to be like them. So I started training with my father for my first match on October 8th, 1999, against April Fowler. I won that match, and I went on to win 23 more against many other amazing or undefeated boxers. Many considered me to be one of the greatest boxers in history, considering all the matches I won. I was inducted into the International Women's Hall of Fame, and I was a 3-time heavyweight world champion. I later retired in 2007 and went on to show people a healthy lifestyle with my cookbook and donated to 19 different charities and helped 16 different causes. People consider me to be an inspiration to many because I was a part of an era where women, African Americans, and all types of minorities were fighting to make sure they were treated equally. So as an African American woman, I inspired them and showed them that you can accomplish anything, no matter the gender or race, and I showed them that they should pursue their dreams. If I didn't exist, I wouldn't have provided a willingness to fight for your rights in a time where equality was desperately needed. And if I didn't make the accomplishments I made, then it may have taken longer for certain minorities to truly be seen as equals. Thankfully, I put in the hard work and effort into becoming one of the greatest boxers of all time and making the country a better place. Thank you for listening.
I was one of the most intelligent people in the world. Not everyone can win a Nobel Peace Prize by just doing anything. I had to work long and hard to get it. Born on June 13th, 1911 in San Francisco, California, I, Luis Walter Alvarez was best known for winning a Nobel Peace Prize and coming up with the idea that the dinosaurs were extinct because of a asteroid. I was very intelligent and had a big passion for physics. I was highly talented and I'm a highly talented I was a I was highly imaginative physicist. Besides doing all the normal work you expect a physicist to do, I took on more unusual tasks, like make use of cosmic rays to find hidden chambers in the Egyptian pyramids. My childhood was an unordinary childhood. I didn't like the things that other kids did, like sports and games. I like building stuff, like a radio that my father helped me out with after reading a magazine about it. I was named after my grandfather, and both my father and grandfather were physicists, just as me. I had a older sister named Gladys, a younger sister named Bernice, and an older brother named Bob. Before all the flame and glory, I come up with the idea that the dinosaurs were extinct because of an asteroid. I wanted to know why they were gone or how, so I came up with this idea, and it turns out to be true. After a couple years, I made up another theory that I found an iridium layer on the Earth. I was a very intelligent man, and I deserved everything I achieved. After all the rich and fame, I I was still a very intelligent man. So I still try to contribute to America and give my ideas. I had two sons, one named Walter Alvarez and the other named Donald Alvarez. Walter Alvarez became a professor at the Earth and Planetary Science Department at the University of California. I was a very intelligent man, and I was highly talented, and I was very experimental. Sadly, I died on September 1st, 1988 from cancer, and sadly, that was the end of my legacy. Thank you for listening.
A wise man can learn more from a foolish question than a fool can learn from a wise answer. My name is Bruce Lee. I was born Lee Jung Fan on November 27, 1940 in San Francisco, California. My parents are Lee Hoi Chun and Grace Ho. I have 4 siblings, Phoebe Lee, Agnes Lee, Robert Lee, and Peter Lee. Shortly after my birth, we moved back to Hong Kong. That's where I became a star in front of the camera. I starred in roughly 20 films as a child actor. As a teen, I was taunted by English schoolboys. So in 1953, I decided to start studying Kung Fu under the authority of Master Yip Man. Soon as I started developing skill, I stopped backing down from fights. In 1961, I went to the University of Washington and to study philosophy to further my knowledge of martial arts. In 1964, I married my wife, Linda Lee Caldwell. We had 2 kids together, Brandon and Shannon Lee. As time moved on, I started to become more known for being a martial artist, actor, philosopher, filmmaker, and the inventor of the martial art Jeet Kune Do. I starred in movies like Game of Death, Fist of Fury, Enter the Dragon, The Way of the Dragon. Sadly, I passed away on July 20th, 1973 due to brain edema at the age of 32. Almost 20 years later, my son died on the set of the movie The Crow on March 31st, 1993. Our graves lie next to each other at Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle. I accomplished some things before I passed away. I received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I'm in the Time magazine list of 100 most influential people of the 20th century. I'm in the Martial Art Hall of Fame, and I also opened the door for Chinese actors today. Thank you.
If there is a book that you want to read but has not been written yet, you must be the one to write it. Have you ever had a dream? Well, I have, and completing my dream wasn't always easy for me. My name is Chloe A. Wofford. I'll explain my other name later. I was born on February 18th, 1931 in Lorain, Ohio. I was the second out of 4 kids in my family growing up during the Great Depression. Back then, life wasn't always easy. My father, George Wofford, had to work 3 different jobs for 17 years to support me and my family. And I worked extremely hard in school to make my family proud. I graduated from Lorain High School in 1949 before attending and graduating from Howard University. I continued my education at Cornell University, where I completed my bachelor's degree. While a student at Howard is where I got my nickname Tony from because they couldn't pronounce Chloe, so they changed it. I became a professor at Princeton University teaching African American studies before moving to Texas for 2 years to teach at Texas Southern University. But I found my calling at Howard, so I quickly moved back. While at Howard, I met my future husband, Harold Morrison, who was a young architect from Jamaica that worked at the university. We soon had 2 kids, Harold and Slate, but unfortunately our marriage didn't last and we got divorced in 1964. I always had a love and passion for reading and always wanted to publish my own novels, so I did. My most popular novels are Sula, Song of Solomon, and Beloved. My book Beloved was soon turned into a movie featuring Oprah Winfrey and Danny Glover. I am mostly known for being the first African-American woman to be selected for a Nobel Peace Prize for my literature on October 9th, 1988. My novels are mainly about slaves and people such as African-Americans who have struggled and strive to find something new for themselves. And even though I grew up with barely enough money, food, or shelter to get me through my childhood, I didn't let it stop me in my success. I have currently written 36 novels, and I am 87 years old, and I am still living and being the best mother and novelist I can be. My name is Toni Morrison. Thank you for listening.
My name is James Van Dersey. I was born June 29th, 1886 in Washington, D.C., but I'm from Lenox, Massachusetts. I was the second child out of 6 children. My parents' name was John and Elizabeth Van Dersey. I played the piano and violin as a youth, but I put my musicianship to use playing with the Fletcher Henderson Band and the John Wanamaker Orchestra. I attained a job in New Jersey inside of a department store, and I opened up my own photo studio. I opened up my own photo shop and renamed it after the Triple G Studio. And I died May 15th, 1983 in New York. Thank you for listening.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Atara Kennedy Long, better known as Nia Long. I portray an important factor in American society. I am motivation to all women, African Americans, and Caribbean people. I was born in Brooklyn, New York on October 30th, 1970. My parents divorced when I was only 2 years old, so me and my mother moved to Iowa City. My father resided in Trenton, New Jersey. My mother and I then moved to Los Angeles to pursue my acting career. I attended Pasadena Elementary School and Westchester High School in 1989. My first original show was in the Disney Channel original movie BRT Patrol. I used to play Brandy in the movie Boys in the Hood. I'm most known for my role as Lisa Walks in the show Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I now live in Los Angeles with my fiance and my 2 sons. I have a current net worth of $13 million and starring in the original shows The Goldbergs and NCIS Los Angeles. I have a current net worth of $13 million and I am also a proud supporter of the PETA. I also contribute my time in a studying children's home in Barbados. Thank you for your time and I hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is Melissa Stockwell. I was born January 31st, 1980 in Grand Haven, Michigan. The 3 things I love the most are my family, athletics, and most importantly, my country. I love that red, white, and blue. My parents, Clark and Lucy, had 5 children. With me being the only girl and 4 other brothers, it was easy to love sports and push myself to extremes. When I was younger, I wanted to compete in the Olympics and I competed in gymnastics. Throughout high school, I played many sports and I decided I wanted to join the Army. Throughout high school, I went on to college at the University of Colorado Boulder, and during my sophomore year there, I joined an ROTC program. In 2002, when I graduated, I became second lieutenant of the U.S. Army and became part of the Transportation Corps. Finally, in Baghdad, Iraq, in 2004, I was a proud platoon leader and convoy commander of the 1st Cavalry Division. A few weeks later, on April 13th, I was doing a routine mission. A few minutes into the drive, my Humvee was struck by a roadside bomb and sent me flying into a ditch. My ears were ringing and all I saw was a cracked windshield and a lot of blood. As I called out for help, medics rushed me to the closest hospital for life-saving surgery. Days after the surgery, I was depressed. I wondered, will I walk? Will I run? Will I be independent? What will I do now? I was the first Iraq war veteran to ever lose a limb in active combat. 52 days later, after the surgery, I learned how to use a prosthetic leg. I even named the leg Little Leg. Every year I have a party to celebrate the new life Little Leg has given to me. After learning how to walk on a prosthetic leg, I learned how to ski down a mountain, but I wanted more of a challenge. Sona told me about the Paralympics being held in Beijing, China in 2008, and that became my goal. I took a liking to swimming because I didn't have to wear a prosthetic leg. There were no medals tied to my Bronze Star and Purple Heart, but I was chosen to carry the U.S. flag at the closing ceremonies in Beijing. I wanted to compete more. I became a para-triathlete, which is swimming, biking, and running. In Rio, Brazil 2016, I won a bronze medal in the para-triathlon. I have achieved many milestones in my life. You're incapable of everything until you try it. I've done more with my life with one leg than I would have ever done with 2. Then I've started a new chapter in my life. I met my husband Brian at work. We both work for a prosthetics company. We now have 2 beautiful children named Dallas and Millie. I've never been more excited to teach my son how to ride a bike than I was to teach myself how to ride a bike with a prosthetic legs. Years ago, I met President George W. Bush at his ranch where he holds a bike race every year for the Wounded Warriors Foundation. I leaned in and asked him, "Mr. President, would you like to dance?" I couldn't believe I was dancing with the President of the United States, of the country I love so much. To immortalize the moment together, he painted a picture of us with his oil paintings and wrote about it in his memoirs. Just this past April 13th, I wished Little Leg her 14th birthday. Remember, you can turn tragedy into triumph. In a world where you can be anything, be yourself. Thank you for listening.
Have you ever seen the movie Pursuit to Happiness? Well, that's a shame because Will Smith was the lead actor playing me, Chris Gardner. You see, I served in the Navy during the Vietnam War. When I came out of the war, I couldn't find a job and things were tough. I was homeless, sleeping on the streets, finding food wherever I could. Then I started hustling as a medical supply salesman, which I really wasn't good at. Then I started to learn the stock market, and now I have a net worth of $64 million. My job today is to motivate people in their pursuit to happiness. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Manyan Remy. I was born February 24th, 1972 in Beauport, Quebec City, Canada. I have a son named Dylan and a husband named Gary. My son plays hockey with me and also helps me with my struggles. I'm most known for being the first female to play in the NHL for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm 46, but I don't play hockey anymore. I like to spend time with my family. I wrote a book called Alone in Front of the Net that was published in 1993. I then came out with a foundation called the Manyan Remy Foundation, which is to help girls around the world find an education to follow their dreams. Thank you for listening.
Have you ever wondered what you have done to affect the Earth? Well, with CFC, basic pollution weight is showing the ozone layer. The ozone layer is the top layer in the Earth's atmosphere to help us to not be burned alive. But first, let's go back a little bit. Hello, I am Mario Melania, and I was born on March 19, 1943. My parents are Roberto Melania and Laura Melania. Both my parents are politicians, so they of course wanted me to become a politician. But I was heavily influenced by my aunt to become a chemist. When I told my parents that I wanted to become a chemist, they didn't believe in me. They wanted me to become a politician like everybody else in the family. In grade school, I went to a regular public grade school in Mexico, but in high school, I went to the Institution of the Reisenberg, which was a boarding school in Switzerland. After I finished high school, I went to many universities in Mexico. I migrated to the United States, and one university I went there was the University of California, which in the year 1973, I discovered that with CFC, or basic pollution, we destroyed the ozone layer. I went to many conventions to spread the message, but they didn't believe in me. They called me a madman and a fool for doing such things. Then later on, they realized my discoveries were the truth. They called me the best scientist in the era. It was a big change. I was the first Mexican born to get the Chemistry Nobel Prize, which is the highest prize you can get as a scientist. I went to many conventions trying to spread and trying to find solutions. I ended up getting a lot of donation publicity, and then I opened up a center to focus on the environment and energy to get better air in places like Mexico and the United States. That is what I contribute to America. Thank you for listening. I am Mario Melania.
Poor, helpless, hungry, living in the streets. That's what the Great Depression was about. A picture was taken of a migrant mother and her children. I should know. I was one who took it. I was once, and so I'm known as the great photographer Dorothea Lange. I was born on May 26, 1895 in Hoboken, New Jersey. My family included of my father Heinrich Newtorn, my mother Joanne Lange, and my brother Martin. When I was 7, I contracted polio, which left my right leg and foot noticeably weakened. That did not stop me, though. I continued to push through it. I'd almost feel appreciative of the illness had on my life. Before my teenage years, my parents divorced, and I blame my father for it. Following high school, I went on to the New York Training School for Teachers, but that didn't work out well, so I decided to continue pursuing photography. I went on to the art form at Columbia University and soon working for different photographers. I was then living in San Francisco with my husband Maynard Dixon and my 2 sons John and Daniel Dixon, also running a successful portrait studio. I am most known for photographing the Great Depression, and even though the government kept my photos a secret until 2004, when they came out, they showed the world was truly happening at that time. I contributed to America by photographing the Great Depression, Japanese internment camps, and by being the first woman to win a BF award. I sadly died on October 11, 1965, but my legacy lives on. Thank you.
My name is Jackie Robinson. When I was growing up, I played track, baseball, basketball, football, and even tennis. Later in life, I chose to be a professional baseball player. Through my life, I experienced being discriminated, but the thing that makes me famous is I was the first African American to be in the MLB. This is important because I broke the color barrier. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something.
You probably know me, and you probably know me as one of the greatest scientists in history with a super high IQ. Truth be told, that was the truth. I had an IQ of 160, and the highest you can get is 162. Hello, I'm Albert Einstein. I was born in Germany in 1897, where I grew up facing many struggles. I had speech problems. My parents had great concerns for me. Teachers didn't believe in me. And all of our family's money is stowed in hell with my lack of interest for education. By age 12, I had become very religious, composing many songs to the praise of God. I also, at age 12, found a geometry book and science book, which contradicted many of my beliefs. I ended up siding with my mathematics and science. That's where the first spark of interest for education started. By age 16, I was just a runaway boy who lost his way in the world, not knowing the greatness that had awaited him. 6 months later, I returned home to finish high school and graduated at 18. I graduated late, seeming as I skipped 6 months, and my father's business interruptions constantly delayed my education. I finished high school in Switzerland, and then I went off to become a teacher. I taught in many schools, such as ETZ Zurich University, and the Compute University of Madrid. I also accomplished many things during my life, including multiple mathematical equations, including E equals mc squared, explaining the relationship between energy and mass, also the theory of relativity, which explain how all time and space are related. Not to mention my help with the Manhattan Project and the atomic bomb. I wrote a letter to President Roosevelt urging that the bomb be built, and they did, seeming as the Vietnamese had advanced in nuclear weapons. Not to mention, going 76 years would not come easy. The 1930s was my hardest decade. In 1933, a friend of mine who helped with me with my theory of relativity had committed suicide, which left me pretty down. Then in 1936, my wife, Elsa Einstein, was diagnosed with terminal kidney and heart problems. I tried to deny it, but it hurt even more when she passed away. And then my other wife, she had an illegitimate child. I have no idea who the child became, or who she was, or who that child became. Sadly, I died in 1955 from a blood vessel aneurysm. But still, even after my death, I had chemical 99, asthenium, named after me. I also had... I hate this. And still, over half a century after my death, I'm still arguably known as one of the greatest scientists to ever live. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is John B. Russworm. I was born October 1st, 1799 in Port Antonio, Jamaica. My parents didn't have a great relationship, but when I was only 4 years old, my father moved me to Quebec, Canada for schooling with my new stepmom. I didn't like going to school because the other kids made fun of me for the color of my skin and the way that I spoke, so I never made friends during my school years. I then moved on to go to Bowdoin College in Maine, and I graduated in 1826. Upon my graduation, I was offered a political position in Liberia, but I declined so I could start a new magazine with my friend Samuel Cornish that I met in college. This magazine was shot down by the public because it discussed more rights for African Americans, and since it was 1826, nobody really agreed with it. Since our magazine didn't really work, I finally took up that position in Liberia, and I lived there for the rest of my life without any wives or kids, helping people to better improve their lives. I died in 1851 without any close friends or relatives, just helping others. Thank you.
With my paintbrush in one hand and my dreams and goals and accomplishments in the other hand, I was unstoppable, something you can call an American hero. Hi, my name is Laura Willow Warren, born the fourth child of 6 on May 16, 1877 in Hartfield, Connecticut, to Mary Freeman, who was an amateur artist and a school teacher, and to Robert Frost, who was a pastor at his own church. I graduated from Hartfield Public High School in 1906 with honors, which led me into following my mother's footsteps and getting a scholarship to Philadelphia Fine Arts Academy in Philadelphia, which was one of the best schools in Philadelphia at the time. I also studied there in 1914. At the end of 1914, I worked part-time at Sinead's Training School, where I became a teacher for art and music.
You imagine going to school instead of math class, you had a golf class? Well, if no, that's sad because that's the type of school I wanted to create. Hello, my name is Lorena Ochoa. When I was growing up, I was interested in golf ever since age 5. For example, I won my first state event at age 6. I won my first national event at age 7. Later in life, I started practicing with children and teaching to play golf. I was so kind to them, I opened a foundation called the Lorena Ochoa Foundation. But things that make me famous are my contributions to America, which are playing golf, winning awards, and creating my foundation. But before the foundation was created, I was a representative of 2003's Nancy Lopez Award, which is presented every year to the world's most famous female golfer. But for some reason, the foundation convinced and committed a general change in education. As of today, I'm a 36-year-old woman still playing golf. I hope you learned something. Thanks for listening.
Hello, one and all. My name is Enrico Fermi, and I was a key factor in leading America to victory during World War II. I was born on September 29, 1901, in Rome, Italy. Growing up, I had 2 siblings, Maria and Giulio Fermi. And my parents were Ida Fermi and Alberto Fermi. My father Alberto worked as a minister of railroads, and my mother was a school teacher. When I was 14, my brother Giulio died of mysterious reasons, and this sent me into a deep depression. My friends and family encouraged me to focus on my studies, and this led me to become a world-renowned physicist. After high school, I attended many different colleges, including the University of Pisa, and this was my greatest college because it led me to my advancements in technology and physics. After college, I married the love of my life, Laura Capone, and we had 2 children. Shortly after having our children, we had to move to the United States because Italy was in a great fascism. In the United States, I quickly found a job in New York City working as a professor for the University of Columbia. While at the University of Columbia, I was approached about working on the Manhattan Project, and I quickly accepted because I felt it would be a great opportunity to help my country. I was forced to move my family to Chicago to work on the Manhattan Project with many other scientists, including Albert Einstein. While in Chicago, I created my first experiment under a college football stadium, and I successfully split a uranium atom to create large amounts of energy and a small explosion. After this, we quickly realized that this was the way to go to win the war. The Japanese were pitted against us, and this was our way out. We quickly made 2 atomic bombs and dropped them on 2 Japanese cities. These cities included Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This ended our war against the Japanese, and it was all about Germany now. After World War II was over, I was asked to be a supervisor for the first ever large particle accelerator in existence. And after this was complete, I died of stomach cancer in 1954, surrounded by my family and friends. Thank you for listening.
The president is not America. His cabinet is not America. Congress is not America. We are America, and we are here to stay. Hi, my name is America Ferreira. I'm the youngest of 5 girls and 1 boy. I'm 34 years old. I was born in Los Angeles, California on April 18th, 1984. As a child, I showed up in many school plays such as Romeo and Juliet. When I was 7 years old, my father, Carlos Ferreira, and my mother, America A., has gotten divorced. In 2010, my dad died due to a medical problem. Also in 2010, I voiced Ashley in the Hollywood hit movie How to Train Your Dragon, How to Train Your Dragon 2. In middle school and high school, I often went by my middle name, Georgine, since I would get bullied when kids would turn to me for the Pledge of Allegiance. My biggest hit was when I played Betty in the television series Ugly Betty. I was congratulated by Congresswoman Hilda L. for being an inspiration to Latinas everywhere. I was the first Latina to win a Primetime Emmy Award, and I am now married to Ryan Pierce Williams, and I just had my first child, Sebastian Pierce Williams. Thank you for listening.
The man who has walked the line between the known and unknown, who is unafraid of failure to succeed. Hello, I'm Gordon Parks. People believe I'm an influential American because I'm smart, creative, and focused. I also take care of my kids, and I'm a writer, composer, filmmaker, but mostly known as a photographer. I was born December 30th, 1912 in Fort Scott, Kansas. But when I was born, I was premature, so the doctor tried every possible way to save me, and he did. But when I grew up, I went to a segregated elementary school and a segregated high school. But during that time in elementary school, my parents died, so it was hard for me growing up. I had 3 spouses and 4 kids. My spouses' names were Genevieve Young, Sally Alvis, and Elizabeth Campbell. My kids' names was David Parks Jr., David Parks, Leslie Parks, and Tony Parks Parkson. Even though I was mostly known as photographer, I made 26 movies, 11 books, and 3 songs. I feel like I've impacted this world because my photos show segregation through them, how the people of color live. I died of cancer March 7, 2006. Thank you for listening. I'm going on break.
At the age of 13, I started school for the first time. I went to Perkins School for Blind. Perkins School for Blind was a really great experience for me. I graduated as valedictorian, and I started my life. I worked at Perkins School for Blind. I worked with Helen Keller. Helen Keller was both deaf and blind. She was a very great person, and she was just an amazing student to teach. I helped her write her first autobiography called The Life of Helen Keller. She then published it and was really popular, and everyone loved her book. At the end, sadly, I finally died. I was only 70 years old. I died on October 20th, 1936. Even though I had a great life and hard times in the beginning, I enjoyed my life, and I wanted to thank everyone that was there for me and helped me through my time. Thank you, and I love him.
My name is James Van Dersey. I was born on June 29th, 1886 in Washington, D.C., but I'm from Lenox, Massachusetts. I was the second child out of 6 children. My parents' name is John and Elizabeth Van Dersey. I was most known for being an African-American photographer. I learned how to play the piano and violin as a youth, but I put my musicianship to use playing with the John Fletcher Henderson Band and the John Wanamaker Orchestra. I attained the job as a darkroom assistant in New Jersey inside of a department store, and I opened up my own Photoshop studio, renamed it after the Triple G Studio, and I died May 15th, 1983. Thank you for listening.
Poor, helpless, hungry, living in the streets. That's what the Great Depression was about. A picture was taken of a migrant mother and her children. I should know. I was the one who took it. I was once, and still am known as, the great photographer Dorothy Lang. I was born on May 26, 1895 in Hoboken, New Jersey. My family included of my father, Heinrich Norriton, my mother, Joanne Lang, and my brother, Martin. When I was 7, I contracted polio, which left my right leg and foot noticeably weakened. That did not stop me, though. I continued to push through it. I'd almost feel appreciative of the illness had in my life. Before my teenage years, my parents divorced, and I blame my father for it. Following high school, I went on to the New York Training School for Teachers, but that didn't work out well, so I decided to pursue photography. I went on to the art firm at Columbia University and soon working for different photographers. I was then living in San Francisco with my husband Maynard Dixon and my 2 sons John and Danny Dixon, also running a successful portrait studio. I am most known for photographing the Great Depression, and even though the government kept my photos a secret until 2004, when they came out, they showed the world what was truly happening at that time. I contributed to America by photographing the Great Depression, Japanese internment camps, and by being the first woman to win a BF award. I sadly died on October 11th, 1965, but my legacy lives on. Thank you.
You have to be taught to be second class. You're not born that way. Growing up, many people treated themselves like they were first and second class because of which side of the tracks they lived, worked, and got their education. I'm no other than Lena Horn. I was born on June 30th, 1917 in Brooklyn, New York. Growing up, my parents were never around. My mother was always on the go. I lived with my grandparents, but at the age of 16, I was lacking of education because I dropped out of school to help support my family. I then started performing worldwide. When I performed worldwide, I went to Europe and got a job. And I started acting, performing, dancing, and singing. I then got signed to a 7-year contract with the Metro Mara Golden Studio. I was the first African-American woman to ever be signed with a firm contract with the film studio. I was mostly known for being a civil rights activist because in the late 1940s, I sued a various restaurant for race discrimination. I then went on World War II tour to help entertain the troops with my thrilling voice. But then I helped Eleanor Roosevelt in her mission for anti-lynching legislation, which means being accused of hanging a person with a crime or without a trial. But then my success came to an end. I died May 9th, 2010. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Amy Jar Rodriguez, and I was born on February 17, 1987 in Lake Forest, California. I'm 31 years old. I grew up in Lake Forest, California, where I went to Santa Marita Catholic High School in Rancho Santa Margarita. I'm the second generation Cuban American because my dad, John Rodriguez, was the first one to be born here, who then married my mom, Laura Rodriguez. When I was little, my parents wanted me to play sports, so I had activities to do, but the one that I liked the most was soccer. In my senior year, it was where the fame for me started. I scored 17 goals in 15 games. I'm most known for being a female soccer player in the USA team. After that, I was named the Player of the Year of Parade magazines. In the 2008 Summer Olympics, I won gold medals. In the 2012 Olympics, as well in the 2015. After I met John Rodriguez, we got married and had a child named Ryan Shillings John. Later after this, it was difficult for me to get back on the field because of pregnancy. During that time, I said I wasn't ready to hang my cleats up. I wanted to get back on the field and continue to play. And today, I still play for the USA team.
Hi, do you like to play sports and be active? Well, I do. Hi, I'm James Naismith, and I invented basketball. I was born in 1861 in Almont, Ontario, in Canada. I moved to America around 1891 to teach phys ed. When I was offered my teaching job, it became my career. I was honored with the American Academy of Physical Education Award. I was called one of the best phys ed teachers in the whole country. I love playing sports so much that I played football in high school. This is where I created the first football helmet. The idea came from my girlfriend, Rose Barkley, when I was playing center and I was kicked in the head trying to protect the quarterback. I had some memory loss and cauliflower ear, but no long-term major injuries. She made the helmet out of leather, but it was uncomfortable, so I modified it to make it fit better. This is how I was entered into the Springfield Football Hall of Fame. Now, about basketball. I got the idea from the game wall ball when I figured out that if you throw the ball in an arc motion, you'll have better control over it. First game was held at the YMCA and consisted of 2 teams of 9 players, a soccer ball, and 2 peach baskets on either side of the court 10 feet in the air. I moved to Kansas in 1896 to be the first basketball coach. This is where I realized that basketball can be played indoors during the winter. I was the first person to enter the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. I received many sports awards throughout my life. In 1904, my sport was entered into the Summer Olympics as a demonstration sport in St. Louis. Unfortunately, I died in 1939 due to a brain hemorrhage, but without me, there'd be no football helmet and over 400 people left without basketball. That's how I contributed to America. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Alexander Hamilton. I was born on December 11, 1785. I had a brother, a mother, and father, but my father soon ran out on us shortly after the rumors of my mother trying to divorce him quickly spread. I had a rough childhood without my father, but I shortly overcame it and worked to have a better childhood. I went to the University of Columbia, where I became a field general in the Revolutionary War, and I turned the tide of the Revolutionary War, which we made us win. After that, I had 5 kids, but the oldest of which was shot in the head and died. I died a year later with my son. After that, my then wife would try to take over the family business, documents, and accomplishments that I did myself. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Alberto Gonzalez. I was born on August 4th, 1955 in San Antonio, Texas. Being son of a construction worker, I had to persevere through many things economically and emotionally. I later went on to the U.S. Air Force after graduating from high school in 1973. I later joined the U.S. Air Force Academy to receive more experience. Leaving the military, I went to Rice University to complete my bachelor's degree in 1979. I later went to Harvard Law School in 1982 to complete my law degree. After that, I joined a law firm in Texas. I was then chosen to be part of President George W. Bush legal counsel in 2001. 4 years later, I was then chosen to be the U.S. Attorney General, making history as the first Hispanic to ever be put in that spot. Unfortunately, I was then reassigned due to some errors, like the firing of other U.S. attorneys. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Joe Lewis. I'm an African-American male boxer who has won over 10 boxing championships in my boxing career. I was born May 13, 1914 in Alabama. My childhood was not that great growing up. I had to sleep 3 to 4 to a bed with my siblings, and not having my father in my life influenced me to box. At age 17, I started my professional boxing career. By age 25, I was winning multiple boxing championships. I influence people to do what they want and follow their dreams. Sadly, April 12th, I died to a heart attack. My name is Joe Lewis. Thank you for listening.
Bang, 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 bang. I was shot in my very own art studio, aka the Factory, by various students who does not use the script. Hi, I'm Andy Warhol. I'm going to tell you somewhat of my life. I was born August 6, 1928 in Pittsburgh. Let me tell you something. When I was younger, I had a disease nicknamed St. Vincent's Dance, which kept me bedridden for months. While I was bedridden, my mother, Joy Warhol, kept me giving me art lessons, which quickly became a favorite pastime. When I was 14, my father, Andre Warhol, died. He had seen my artistic potential and had started saving for college. However, we didn't know about the savings until after he died. When me and my family found the savings, we decided I would benefit the most from college. My factory was originally located at 231 East 47th Street in New York. My factory is the site of many artistic and social interactions. I contributed to what it means to be an artist. In 1961, I took in the idea of the pop art movement and helped it pursue success. I'm Andy Warhol. Have a nice day.
Every dream begins with a dreamer. I, Neil deGrasse Tyson, dreamed about exploring space as a young boy. I was born October 5, 1958, to sociologist Carrie deGrasse Tyson and paleontologist Sanchez Maria Tyson. Being one of 3 children, I had a very promising childhood, although I moved to many different schools growing up. I discovered my love for space when I went to the Hayden Planetarium, which I now serve as the director. After discovering this love, I went to the Brockman High School of Science in New York, where I grew and learned more about our solar system and cosmos. I after graduating from high school, I went to Harvard where I got my bachelor's degree, and then I went to the University of Columbia where I got my doctorates. After getting out of college, I met my wife Alice Young, which we now have 2 children together. I have many accomplishments except for being named the sexiest astrophysicist alive, and I was also part of a 12-member team assigned by President George Bush that helped develop our national security, space exploration, and transportation. I have many quotes. For example, the best thing about science is that it's true whether or not you believe it, and that we are in this universe, we are part of this universe, and perhaps more important than both of those facts is that the universe is in us. Thank you for listening.
My name is Amelia Earhart, the world's most well-known female pilot. I was born July 24th, 1897 in Atchison, Kansas. I saw my first plane when I was 10 years old at a state fair and became mesmerized in an instant. Throughout my childhood, I lived with my grandparents in Atchison and went to a private school there until I was 12. I spent my summers visiting my parents in Kansas City before they got divorced. Later, I went to school in Philadelphia. I spent my high school and junior college years there. After this, I volunteered as a nurse to work my way up to becoming a pilot and eventually being able to buy my own plane. To do this, I had to pursue many jobs such as an office assistant, a file clerk, a photographer, and even a truck driver. Talk about exhausting. I learned how to fly from another female pilot, and I finally got my license when I was 24 years old. The day I'll never forget, December 15th, 1921. However, I guess you can say my career really took off May 20th, 1932, when I became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. After this, I continued to set numerous records in aviation and even break my own until my final flight. I was last seen July 2nd, 1937 in New Guinea, when I had already completed 22,000 miles of my attempt to fly 24,900 miles around the world. I was only 3,000 miles off until I disappeared. There are many theories as to what happened to me. Some believe I was a spy, some believe I was killed, and some simply think the plane just crashed. To this day, my whereabouts are still unknown and one big mystery. Thank you for listening.
Think back to the 1950s. It's your first day of school for your junior year, but you can't get through the doors. Why? Your skin. Welcome. My name is Thelma Jean Mother Shadwar. I was born the year of 1940, November 29th. I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas with my parents, 3 sisters, and 2 brothers. Here, I went to Central High, Dunbar Junior High, and Horace Mann High. After graduating Central High, I went to Southern Illinois University and became an economic teacher. Later after this, I married Fred War, and we had 1 son. While going to Central High, I was among the only 9 black students allowed to attend this white-only high school, otherwise known as the Little Rock Nine. But we couldn't attend our classes till September 25th due to Governor Faubus sending the Arkansas National Guard to prevent us from entering, until President Eisenhower removed the Guard and sent 500 members of the 101st Airborne Division. Even after this, I was framed by white kids. They would do anything to get me in trouble. I once had a girl who accused me of kicking her, and it was even on the news. I also had a teacher who wouldn't touch anything I touched. I placed a paper on her desk, she'd move it with a pencil, sign it, and wait for me to pick it up. It was like this till the end of the year. At graduation, Ernest Green was the first black to graduate out of Central High. I was hoping to graduate like this the following year until Governor Faubus issued that all Little Rock 9 schools would be closed the following year due to an integrated vote of 7,571 to 19,470, causing the lost year of 1958 to 1959. Today I'm still living in Little Rock, and my grandchildren will only know equality. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Samuel Cornish. I was born in 1795 in Sussex County, Delaware. I'm a son of free slaves. I went to a school in Philadelphia where I studied to be a minister for a church. In 1822, I was ordained and made my own church, Emmanuel Church. I was there until 1846. After that, I became a journalist with John B. Rushworm, and I made my own American journal called the Freedom Journal. That was the first African-American journal in U.S. history. After that, I stepped down and became a journal agent for African-Americans, and those schools were very successful, had major educations. After that, I died in 1858. Thank you for listening.
Hello, I am Douglas MacArthur. I was born January 26 in 1880 in Little Rock, Arkansas. My father told my mother, I think we have a soldier in that boy. So I attended the military academy on 1899 to 1903. Douglas MacArthur is an American general who commanded the Southwest Pacific in World War II. I also helped win World War II and made the Japanese surrender September 2nd, 1945. I have a mom, a dad, and 2 brothers. My dad's name is Arthur MacArthur Jr., my mom's name is Mary Pinky Hardy MacArthur, and my 2 brothers, Arthur MacArthur III and Malcolm MacArthur. My famous saying is, old soldiers never die, they just fade away. Thank you.
Do you know who Donald Trump is? Well, I've been kicked out of his rallies due to asking him questions about immigration. Hello, my name is Jorge Ramos. I was born on March 16, 1950 in Mexico City. As a kid, I enjoyed playing soccer and running track. Later in life, I became a journalist. I covered 5 big wars and interviewed some of the most important leaders. But the thing that makes me famous is being an advocate. This is important because I want immigrant kids to have a better future. I hope you learned something new and thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Diana Taurasi. You may know me as being a 4-time Olympic gold medalist or as a player on the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA. It took a lot of hard work and dedication to get where I am today, but this was a dream I wanted to make a reality. I was born June 11th, 1982 in Chino, California. My mother is an immigrant from Argentina and my father came from Italy, so it was a rough journey at first. But they worked hard to make sure my sister Jessica and I had everything we needed. I was always taller than the other kids growing up, but I was taught to never be ashamed, and when I got into basketball, I realized how much of an advantage my height really was. I idolized Magic Johnson, and I learned most of my game from watching him play. I never played on a team until 6th grade when I was spotted and I began playing organized basketball. When I was 12 years old, I moved back to Argentina for a year with my family and I realized how much they struggled. There were no money and there were no jobs, but they still had to find a way to provide for the family. A year later, I moved back to the U.S. and I promised myself I wouldn't let any opportunity pass up. It all started at Don Lugo High School. I led my team to a national title in 2000, and by the end of my high school career, I was named a Nike All-American, Parade Magazine All-American, and I won the Cheryl Miller Award for Region's Best Player. I got many college offers, but I ultimately decided on attending UConn. There, I led my team to back-to-back title games, and I became the first player in UConn history to top 2,000 points, 600 rebounds, and 600 assists. From there, I was drafted into the WNBA, and I was signed to Phoenix Mercury. But I never imagined my life being as successful as it is. I became the youngest player to join Team USA, and I won 4 Olympic gold medals. I joined a league in Russia during the off-season, and I became the league's all-time scorer. On May 13, 2017, I married my former teammate Penny Taylor, and we welcomed a son, Leo Michael Taurasi Taylor, on March 1st, 2018. I have been enjoying time with my family, and I hope to keep playing in the WNBA and maybe even set more records.
Imagine a beautiful island full of many trees and beaches. You wouldn't want to leave, right? Then imagine being put into an arranged marriage where you have no say. Many people wouldn't know what to do, but I can assure you I didn't let this arranged marriage take over my life. Hi, my name is Gertrudes Gomez de Avellaneda, and the beautiful island I was talking about earlier was actually where I was born. I was born in Cuba, and I lived there till I was about 22 years old, and that's when the arranged marriage came in. Want to know what I did? I traveled all the way to Spain and pursued my career in literature. My literary works had impacted many causes and many lives. My anti-slavery novel had greatly contributed to the anti-slavery cause since it had actually helped end slavery once and for all. Other than being part of the anti-slavery cause, I had supported women such as myself. Back in the 1800s, women were oppressed. We gave birth to the kids, we cooked, and we cleaned. We didn't really have a say in the relationship with the man. However, I decided to speak up and tell women that they too should be independent as I was. Speaking of men and women, I was also very flirty in my love life. My 2 spouses, they had ended up dying of illnesses, and I gave birth to 1 child, and they too had ended up dying of illnesses since the medication wasn't very advanced back in that time period. I traveled to many places, including America. Of course, you have been there. When I was in America, the monuments and the political figures had inspired a lot of my poetry, especially my sonnet about Niagara Falls and my poem about George Washington. Those were the favorites of America. I soon returned back to Spain, Madrid to be specific, where I lived the last couple years of my life. Unfortunately, I died of diabetes at a very flowerful age. Anyways, that's my life. Thank you for listening.
Do not set out to make Mexican, American, Chinese, or Russian art. Think in terms of university. Hi, I'm Rufino Tamayo, a Mexican artist, born in Mexico, Oaxaca, in August 25th, 1899. Throughout my childhood, I faced many difficulties, including my parents' death in 1911, causing me to be an orphan at the age of 12, then being raised by my aunt, who had a wholesale fruit business, and then being put in a fine arts academy, but then dropping out to my self-studying process. 4 years later, I was the head of the ethnographic department of the National Museum of Archaeology in Mexico City. Years later, I met my future wife and married her in 1934. In 1980, I was diagnosed with cancer and didn't have much to live. In those years, I did 21 paintings for murals, universities, museums, and local clients. Then recognition and fame came along. Years later, I passed away and 2 museums were built in my honor. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Maya Angela. I was born on April 4th, 1928 in St. Louis, Missouri. When I was young, my parents split and I was sent to live with my grandma in Arkansas, where I experienced firsthand discrimination and prejudice. Occasionally, I'll visit my mom back in St. Louis. And one time I visited that I'll never forget. I was molested by one of my mom's friends, and when I told my uncle, he killed the man in anger. I stopped speaking for 5 years and feared that my words caused people's deaths. When I was 13 years old, I started speaking again and rejoined my mother and brother in San Francisco. I grew a passion for civil rights and married an activist from South Africa in 1961. Together we moved to Cairo, Egypt, where I found work at a small newspaper radical. 1 year later, we split, and I moved to Ghana with my son. Here, I met Malcolm X, who taught me a lot about African culture. When I returned to the United States, I became a symbol and activist for the African American civil rights movement. After the devastation of his death in 1965, I looked to novelist James Baldwin for guidance. He encouraged me to put my feelings onto paper, so I started writing poetry. Recalling childhood and motherhood, I published I Know Where the Caged Bird Sings in 1969. It showed how a love of literature can overcome racism and trauma. To my surprise, it became an instant bestseller and was nominated for a National Book Award in 1970. I continued to write for the rest of my life and achieved my goal of directing in 1998 with a film named Downtown Delta. Most recent achievement was in 2010 when I was bestowed the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award by President Barack Obama for my contribution to racial endeavors. To me, it was never about the awards or fame. I just wanted to push for justice, education, and equality for everyone.
Have you ever heard of a movie called Something the Lord Made? It's about me. I'm Vivian Thomas, an African-American who overcame segregation to accomplish my dreams of becoming a surgeon. I was born on August 29th, 1910 in Lake Providence, Louisiana, where I attended Martin Luther King Pro High School. From there, I went to University of Vanderbilt, where I became a lab assistant to Dr. Alfred Bullock. While all the other African-Americans never genders, Bullock saw something special in me and hired me to help him with his work. I then started to develop the procedure to treat blue baby. It's when an oxygen can't get to the baby's bloodstream, causing their complexion turns blue and eventually kills them. Because of the color of my skin, I was never allowed to operate on a human body myself, so I practiced these procedures on dogs. I then pioneered Bullock through actual surgeries to help treat actual patients. I helped save countless lives and achieve my goals and died at the age of 75 due to pancreatic cancer. Thank you for listening.
Won't you walk away with me on a cloudy day where the fields of yellow grass are knee-high? So won't you come away with, oh hey, download my song, Come Away With Me Today. Hi, my name is Nora Jones. I'm an Indian American singer, songwriter, actress, activist, and pianist. My career spans over 20 years, whether it is making music, starring in movies, or sticking up for what is right. I was named the top jazz artist of the 2000 to 2009 decade and one of the most influential artists of the thousands. I was born Jitali Nora Shankar on March 30th, 1979 in Brooklyn, New York. I always knew I wanted to be a musician after growing up around my parents. My debut album, Come Away With Me, was released in 2002. It sold over 27 million copies worldwide and topped the Billboard charts. I've got 5 Grammys this year, including Best New Artist, Album of the Year, and Song of the Year for my song Don't Know Why. I've released 5 albums since this, debuted 1 movie, My Blueberry Nights, and I've gone on 6 tours throughout my career so far. I try to continue what the movements before me have done. Considering I'm an Indian American woman in the music industry, I was doubted many times, but I did not let that stop me from having a successful career. I've received 14 different awards and 34 different nominations from places such as the World Music Awards and the Grammys. I'm on the board of advisors for the Yield Haiti Foundation, which helps rebuilding projects in the country of Haiti, and I back charities such as Stand Up to Cancer and AIDS Still Required. I hope that my impact allows women to break even more barriers than the ones I opened up, and that women of color and women in general will be more respected in the music industry and more accepted if they try to create versatile music like mine. Thank you for listening.
I don't want no drummer outside the temple. Hi, my name is Bessie Smith. I was born April 15th, 1894. Slavery was over, but I lived in poverty and segregation. I lived a tough life when I was younger. By the time I was 9, my mother, my father, and 2 of my brothers had died. I began to sing at a very young age. I would often perform on the street corners of my hometown, Tennessee, where my brother played the guitar so we could raise money. Years passed, and I was discovered by a representative from Columbus Records with whom I signed my first contract with and made my first song recording, Downhearted Blues. Soon I was among the highest black paid performers of my time and was awarded Lifetime Grammy Achievement Award. But even though I am no longer alive, my music still on today. Hope you learn some new things for listening.
Hi, my name is Ida Levitan, and I was born into a hardworking family in Havana, Cuba, in July 1948. I lived with my mother and my aunt at that time. My mother was my top role model because she was very sympathetic, caring, and supportive. I went to the Philip Bilingual School in Cuba, which I wrote and learned English in the morning and spoke Spanish in the afternoon. Due to the money issues in my family and because I was old enough to have a job, I worked in my own school cafeteria to pay for my own lunch. Due to the Cuban Revolution, I went to Miami, Florida on the famous Pedro Pan flights, and I had to leave my mother and my aunt. In Miami, I had to attend Miami Beach High School, and later that year, I reunited with my mother. After graduating Miami Beach High, I went on to Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, which I was offered a full scholarship. I was almost thrown away due to the dean of the university telling me that I would get pregnant and that I would be married and that it would be a waste of time because of the relationship that I had that year. To keep my scholarship, I had to maintain all my grades, go into the doctorate program, and teach an undergraduate class. After all the effort and hard work I put in, I succeeded and graduated in Emory. The things that I'm most known for is that I joined and created groups in South Florida to help and foster the Hispanic culture and arts. The group that I created was the Levitan group, and the groups that I've joined were the Artists Miami Incorporated and the National Friends of the American Latino Museum. I am still alive at the age of 70. Work doesn't come to women easily. It's all blood, sweat, and tears. Thank you for listening. Have you ever been pushed around or spit on? Well, 9 students suffered for being a different skin color and trying to enroll to an all-white school. Hi, I'm Daisy Bates, and I helped the first 9 Black African Americans to enroll to an all-white school. At an early age, I confronted racism and dedicated my life ending racial injustice. When I was a teen, I met my future husband, and together we started a newspaper called the Arkansas Weekly. We were the only ones who dedicated our newspaper to the civil rights movement. I was also president of the NAACP, so when the national NAACP started focusing on Arkansas schools, they looked to me to plan the strategy. I organized Little Rock 9. I selected 9 students to go to the Central High School in Little Rock. Every day I would drive them to school and make sure that they were protected from the angry white folks and students who didn't want them there. For my help, I was also interrogated. People would come to my house, throw rocks in my windows, or put bullet shells in my mailbox. These threats soon led me to shut down my newspaper. But after my success with the Little Rock 9, I continued to work on the status of the African Americans in the South. But at the age of 85, I sadly passed away. But for my work, I was awarded the Medal of Freedom. Hope you learned something. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Judy Francisca Baca, but you can call me Judy. I was born September 20th, 1946, and I am a Chicana muralist. A muralist is a person who uses walls as the canvas to show creativity, and their artistic talents. A Chicana is an American female who uses their Mexican descent as their identity. I know from my very famous project, Mi Abuelita, which I made in 1971. It is still known today in Holland Park, LA. I am known as the director and founder of Social Public Arts Resource Center, SPARC, in LA. It is my community center for my community in LA. One of my most famous projects in which I created with them was the Great Wall of Los Angeles. I am known as a motivation to many Chicano and Chicano artists, in which I am able to show them that everything is possible as long as you have your own faith and artistic talents. Thank you for listening, and I am Julie Francisca Baca.
You're looking at Jesse Owens, the man who had 10 flight in 1936 Berlin Olympics. I was born September 12, 1913 in Oakville, Alabama. I had 6 brothers and sisters. My mother, Mary Emma Fitzgerald, and my father, Henry Cleveland Owens, had 13 children in total. As a child, I had some major health issues, and I had to help around the house by finding small-town jobs. In my college years, I had gone to Ohio State University, where I was the team captain of the track team, and I ran track for the track team. That was a big accomplishment for an African-American man back then. But I wasn't able to live on campus, and I was treated differently because of my skin color. Then I went to the Berlin Olympics. In 1936, where I had captured 4 gold medals, broke 3 world records, and tied one less than 45 minutes. I also had one of the greatest Olympic performances in history, and I also had my long jump record has stood for 25 years. I had to shake hands with Hitler at the end of the Olympics, but he didn't want to shake hands with me because he felt disrespected by me having all these accomplishments and proving his Aryan supremacy's myth wrong. I died March 31st in 1980 in Oakville. I died March 31st in 1980 in Tucson, Arizona, from lung cancer. From this happening, they had made me a memorial stadium, memorial park, and a memorial museum to represent my victories and accomplishments. Thank you for listening.
Have you ever wondered what you have done to affect the Earth? Well, with CFC or basic pollution, we're destroying the ozone layer. The ozone layer is the top layer in the Earth's atmosphere to help us to not be burned alive. But first, let's go back a little bit. Hello, I am Mario Melania, and I was born on March 19, 1943. My parents are Roberto Melania and Laura Melania. Both my parents are politicians, so they of course wanted me to become a politician. But I was heavily influenced by my aunt to become a chemist. When I told my parents that I wanted to become a chemist, they didn't believe in me. They wanted me to become a politician like everybody else in the family. In grade school, I went to regular public grade school in Mexico, but in high school, I went to the Institution of the Reisenberg, which was a boarding school in Switzerland. I went to many universities in Mexico, and then I migrated to the United States, and one university I went there was the University of California. Then in the year 1973, I discovered that with CFC, or basic pollution, we were destroying the ozone layer. When I tried to spread the message that we were destroying the ozone layer, they didn't believe in me. They called me a madman and a fool for thinking such things. Then later on, they realized that my discoveries were the truth. They called me the best scientist in the era. It was a big change. I was the first Mexican born to get the Nobel Peace Prize, which is the first prize you can get as a chemist. Because of this, I got a lot of publicity and donations, and then I ended up opening up a center that focused on the environment and energy to help get better air in places like Mexico and the United States to help eventually restore the ozone layer. That is how I contribute to America. Thank you for listening. I am Mario Melania.
The minds of men and ultimately will liberate the bodies of men. Hi, I am Marcus Garvey. I was born August 17, 1887 in St. Anne's Beach, Jamaica. I was the youngest of 11 children. My mother and father tried very hard to provide for me and my family. My father was a stonemason, my mother a domestic worker. I was self-educated for most of my life, but at the age 14, I became an apprentice and I left home. At a young age, I realized that the black community was very badly mistreated, so I devoted my life to helping the community. I was an orator for Pan-Africanism, and I created the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. At my old age, I had realized that I helped the community as much as I could, and I passed June 10th, 1940 in West Kingston. I am Marcus Garvey. Thank you for listening.
Of Hollywood for almost 60 years. Anywho, I was born on May 12, 1907 in Hartford, Connecticut. I was one of 6 siblings. My childhood was very influencing since my mother and father both raised me to speak from my mind. I also had a great childhood until one morning I witnessed my brother commit suicide. After that, I wasn't focused on sports nor academics, so my parents put me in a private high school called Kingswood, Oxford. And then later in my education, I went to Bryn Mawr College, and I graduated with a philosophy and history degree. After that, I wasn't focused on sports nor academics, so my parents forced me to put me in a private high school called Kingswood, Oxford. Later in my education, I went to Bryn Mawr College, and I graduated with a philosophy and history degree. After college, I got small roles on Broadway. I found a big interest in acting. I got a huge contract. Then a couple years later, I didn't find interest in acting anymore, and I gave up. One time, the cast manager took my slacks, and I said no, because do you really see me wearing a jean skirt? But anywho, I walked around backstage without just a shirt and underwear on until I got my slacks back. Anywho, I came back with a huge hit called A Philadelphia Story. Some hardships I went through were adapting to the natures of acting. Me, I like to control people. I hate when they control me. But somehow it was hard, but I got through it. Another hardship I went through was a 27-year love affair with my coworker Spencer Tracy. Oh boy, do I love him. After 66 years of acting, I decided to retire with almost overall 70 awards. Sadly, on June 29, 2003, I died of natural causes. I feel like I left a bigger trademark today than I did in the 40s and 50s, even though I entertained it back then. But people see me as a bigger role model today than they did back then. My name is Katherine Hepburn, and thank you for listening.
Picture teaching a class full of hungry, shoeless kids. Would you know how to help? Well, I did. I helped their parents find stable jobs and farms. Let's start off from when I was born in April 10, 1930, in Dawson, New Mexico. That being said, I'm Chicana because I was born to and raised by Mexican immigrant parents. Throughout my whole life, I watched Latinos struggle because they didn't have a good education. But I couldn't just sit there and watch my own people struggle. I had to do something about it. To accomplish what I wanted, I quit teaching and joined organizations such as the Community Service Organization. But I felt more committed than any other activist, so I co-founded one of the best and most successful organizations with Cesar Chavez. But employers felt no fear. They kept treating hardworking people as if they were less. So boycotting and going on strikes was my next move. Have you ever heard about the Delano strike? It was a huge strike. 5,000 grape workers joined in because of poor pay and bad conditions. But just like I felt proud for being the lead negotiator after the strike, I felt hurt. And by that, I don't mean emotionally hurt, but physically hurt. In September 1988, an officer put me to suffer through fractured ribs and a splint. But I'm not someone who gives up easily. I'm a strong female, and I achieve what I want. In 1975, the Agricultural Labor Relations Act was established. This act helps the employer and the employee get to an arrangement to make the working area a more comfortable place. Up until this day, I'm still doing the same thing, and I've gotten awarded a variety of times by even one of the best presidents, Barack Obama. I'm Dolores Huerta. Thank you for listening.
The things we truly love stays with us always, locked in our hearts as long as life remains. Hi, I was just saying French, bonjour. I'm Josephine Baker, and I contribute to America by being an inspiration to African-American women as a performer, a civil rights activist, and is known as the risque person who wears straight made out of bananas. I was born on June 3rd, 1906 in St. Louis, Missouri, which was a slave state back in the 1800s. It became a free state on January 11, 1865. My birth name was Frida Josephine McDonald. My mother was a washwoman, and my father left us right after I was born. My mother then married another man and had 3 more children, a son and 2 daughters. Growing up, I cleaned houses and babysat for Caucasian families. At the age of 13 is when I got my first job as a waitress. That same year is when I met my first husband and got married, but soon later divorced. For a time, I didn't have much and I was poor, but when I became older, famous, I started earning money by performing. I got involved in fame when I went on tour with the Jones Family Band and the Dixie Steppers. I also auditioned for a production called Shuffle Along with the Dixie Steppers, but got rejected for my skin color. There was a lot of racism and discrimination going on at this time, so it was really common to get comments like that. Later on, I then started movies like Zozo and Princess Tam Tam. I was part of the civil rights movement. I marched with Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. I was a civil rights activist who fought for African American civil rights because I experienced racism as a young child. Even though some people gave me a hard time, I care for all people. I care so much that I adopted 12 children all around the world. I want to show people that different ethnic groups can live together. I died on April 6, 1975, of cerebral hemorrhage. People thought that was a big inspiration, even though some people give me the hardest time. I was very independent and I didn't need a man financially. Au revoir, that's bye in French. Thank you for listening.
Buenos dias, soy yo Loretta Janetta Velasquez. I fought in the Civil War for 4 years and was falling deeply in love with it. I struggled to love and care for someone and keep my identity a secret. I was born June 26, 1842 in Cuba, Havana, and was born into a wealthy family. By the age of 14, I eloped with an officer in the Texas Army and had 3 kids with him. By the age of 18, all 3 kids had passed. I fought in the war for 4 more years and had 5 more husbands. Each husband left me as a widow after a brief marriage, and I had over 6 kids, and each kid passed but 1. On my final child, I had to find a way to support myself, so I created a book, A Woman in Battle, a narrative exploits and adventures of Madame Loretta Janetta Velasquez, otherwise known as Harry T. Buford. The book put me in a dangerous spot since I exposed the Confederacy and the Union, and people thought I was crazy. But sadly, I died in 1923 of natural causes in a mental hospital, and no one knows what month or day I passed.
Hello, my name is Celia Cruz. I was born in 1925 in Havana, Cuba. I grew up in the poor neighborhood of Santa Suarez. My music career did not really kick off until the 1940s when I entered and won a singing contest named La Hora del Té, or Tea Time. After I won, my mother encouraged me to enter many more singing contests around Cuba, but my father, who has a more traditional mindset, wanted me to become a teacher, which was a common career path by many Cuban women at the time. I decided to listen to him. I enrolled in college, but shortly after, I ended up dropping out. I enrolled in college again, but this time it was for music. I also dropped out. But this time, it was because many of my teachers encouraged me to take my music full-time, and my live and my radio performances were already gaining a lot of popularity. Since my music was already popular in most of Latin America, I decided to go on tour. While on tour in Mexico, many of my bandmates were talking about fleeing to America to flee the communist takeover of Fidel Castro. I decided to join them. I ended up in New York with an orchestra, but I decided it wasn't for me. After I decided to take on my solo career was pretty successful as I have 6 Grammys and 8 other awards. I sadly died of brain cancer on July 16, 2003.
Hello, my name is Mark Rothko. I was born on September 25th, 1903, in Russia. I was the youngest of all my siblings. At the age of 10, my father moved us to Portland, Oregon, because he was fearful that my older brothers would get drafted into the military. Also because he had a business partner there. Here, I excelled at school, graduating high school in only 3 years. And I attended Yale University. Shortly after I dropped out, I moved to New York City. This is where I found my love for art. Before, I was only into really drama or theater. I joined a group called The 10, and I started to take classes. Also, around this time, I was teaching at the Jewish Boys Center in Brooklyn. I was married twice. Sadly, both times I was divorced. And my first marriage lasted for 11 years. Then my second marriage lasted for 24 years, and it was to Mary Alice Beasley. This marriage ended in 1969. I had 2 kids, Christopher and Kate Rothko. During this time, I had many different paintings, but probably my most favorite painting was Orange, Red, Yellow. This particular piece sold for $87 million. I had other pieces like Black on Maroon and Black on Gray. Sadly, on February 25th, 1970, I committed suicide. And shortly after that, my longtime wife died on August 17th, 1970. Thank you for listening.
Have you ever been proud of yourself for working hard? I have too, because my success is not measured not so much by the position, but by the obstacles which I overcome. Hi, my name is Booker T. Washington, and I'm a leader, an educator, and an activist. During my early childhood, I was born to a slave on April 5th, 1856 in Hillsborough, Virginia. My mother, Jane Ferguson, worked as a cook for plantation owner James Burgos. My father was an unknown white man because he had raped my mother. After the Civil War was over, me and my mother had moved to Madeline, West Virginia, where she had met my stepfather, Washington Ferguson. At the young age of 9, I had to work at a nearby salt furnace with my stepfather because our family was very poor. My mother had noticed my interest in learning, so she got me a book and I learned how to read and write basic words. At this time, I had took the first name of my stepfather and used it as my last name. Just to get my education, I had to walk 500 miles to school in Virginia. In later years, the Alabama legislature passed $2,000 for a color school called the Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute, now known as Tuskegee University. Tuskegee became one of the leading schools in the country under my leadership. I remained at the head of Tuskegee until my death on November 14, 1915, at the young age of 59 because of a heart failure. I was a very complex individual who lived in a precarious time, advancing racial equality. Thank you for listening.
Hey there, my name is Billie Jean King. I was born on November 22nd, 1963, in Long Beach, California. I am most known for being a famous tennis player and a women's rights activist. I was born in a very conservative family, for I was very religious. I inclined into sports since a very young age. My parents encouraged both me and my brother into sports. I was introduced to the sport of tennis by a school friend and soon fell in love with it. I attended Polytechnic High School and the Long Beach, California State University. After that, I married my college boyfriend. After 4 years, I realized I was gay. I was worried about this very much, for my title was at risk and my marriage would ruin. After I divorced him, I gained the new title of being the first prominent female athlete to admit her homosexuality. After this, I fought for equality for sports. I'm currently 74 years old in a relationship with no kids. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Michael Jeffrey Jordan, and I am the GOAT, or the greatest of all time. And my name is actually for short, which is actually MJ. I was born on February 17th, 1963. To Dallas Jordan and James Freeman Jordan Sr. I was with my 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. In my own family, I have 5 children, 2 boys and 3 girls. I was married twice, and now I'm currently married. Let me explain why everyone wants to be like me. I won 6 NBA championships, 6 became 6 times NBA MVP Finals titles, 5 times MVP titles, and 2 Olympic gold medals, and also I won 2 slam dunk contests. But just remember this: just play, have fun, and learn something new.
Third, but my stage name is Cab Calloway. I was born December 25th, 1907, in Rochester, New York. I guess you could say I was a gift. I grew up with my mother and my father in a wealthy home. There they got me vocal lessons for my love for music. I expected to follow my father's footsteps in law to become a lawyer, but my love for music stopped me from following the expectation. As I got older, I didn't go through that much racism. Like I once said, when we played the white boys because we wanted to, not because we had to. As I got older, I started feeling more segregated, though. And my sister was always there, being an inspiration for my career and stopped me from seeing all of that. As I started my gig at Harlem Famous Cotton Club, and from there, I got that's when my talent started to shine. I helped slowly change the way blacks are seen by the public. I'm most known for my song Minnie the Moocher, once played in the Betty Boop cartoon over and over. And I'm also known for my ability to scat sing. Scat sing is when you remember your voice to sound like other instruments from around the world. I had 2 wives and 1 daughter who died due to cancer. Sadly, after my time, I died to a severe stroke that I suffered in November 18, 1994. Thanks for watching.
I'm sure many of you have heard of the modern game Monopoly, but when I was around, Monopolies weren't all fun and games. Hi, I'm Ida Tarbell. Many of you may know me as the woman who stood up to Standard Oil through my writing. You could also know me as the woman who wrote The Life of Abraham Lincoln, or as the inventor of investigative writing. Let's start at the beginning, though. I was born about 6.5 hours from here in Erie County, Pennsylvania. There, I lived in a log cabin with my mother, Esther Ann Tarbell, and my father, Franklin Summer Tarbell. My father was an oil refiner. This was a major detriment for me when I was about 14 years old. This is because the Cleveland Massacre happened. The Cleveland Massacre is when Standard Oil started making its first moves towards becoming a monopoly. This put my father's business in debt and put my family in a very difficult financial situation. I continued on, though. I graduated from Titusville High School and decided to continue on to college. I graduated from Allegheny College as the only woman of my class in 1890. Then I decided to become a teacher. This teaching career only lasted about 2 to 3 years, though, before I decided what I really wanted to do was become a writer. This writing career lasted me a very long time. These passions led me to France. Here in France, I wrote one of my most famous pieces of writing called The History of Standard Oil. I wrote this for McClure's magazine. This piece was originally going to be written in 1 installment, but ended up being written in 19. This piece was about how Standard Oil, like many other monopolies, took over other businesses and made it very difficult for those businesses to continue on. After this piece became famous, I decided to move back to America. Here in America, I wrote for my own magazine called American Magazine. Here, I wrote many articles about women's rights. I knew that women were supposed to be treated as equal as men. For example, I wrote the article Ways of Women and The Business of Becoming a Woman. Both of these were inspired by my knowing that women were equal to men. I also served on the Industrial Conference. For this conference, I served for many important events, such as the election of Woodrow Wilson. Unfortunately, on January 6, 1944, I died of pneumonia. But my legacy is still lived on. For example, in 2000, I was put into the Women's Hall of Fame for my hard work and dedication towards making America a better place. Additionally, in 2002, I was featured on a series of postal stamps. These postal stamps highlighted many other writers and authors and journalists. I'm very proud of what I did for America and hope that what I did continues to help Americans in their ways of life. Thank you for listening.
I always say Latin Americans can do whatever they want if they set their minds to it, just like I did. I am Maria Carmen Ramirez. I was born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I grew up with my parents and my younger brother. I was never married and I don't have any kids. I attended the University of Puerto Rico and the University of Texas in 2001 for the Museum of Fine Arts. When I was 13, segregation had just been abolished, which made it difficult for me to find a sponsor for my art. It was also difficult for me to bring my art and culture to the United States because of this. My graphic arts help the public see that Latin Americans can achieve their goals and dreams of becoming whatever they want. My museum helped me achieve my goal of helping others by putting their different types of art into my museum, thus making many more Latin Americans known for their art. When I donated more than $1.8 million to the Peter Norriton Family Foundation, in return, they gave me an award for crucial excellency. This then led to me giving $18.6 million to humanity projects across the country. I impacted many people's lives, but in a good way. I love to think my museum is very eye-opening. I say this because it is filled with different types of art from different types of culture. It is also very colorful, which makes it stand out even more. When people come to my museum, they think and say, I love this type of art. This then inspires the artists to keep making more. It also gives me a peace of mind that Latin Americans aren't treated differently and think that they can't do something without failing at it and never wanting to do it again. To this very day, I still think and say Latin Americans can do whatever they want if they set their minds to it. Even you. I am Maria Carmen Ramirez. Thank you for listening.
What makes a successful American is being driven, smart, and kind. Those words describe me, Mary Gorda Ross. I was known for being the first Native American female engineer. I was born on July 9th, 1908. Can't do this. My grandfather was a renowned chief. His name was Chief Frost. Chief Frost became my grandfather was famous for leading child terrors. I was educated at Cherokee Baton Rouge, nation's capital, Tuckahoe. Growing up, I was an outcast because I was the only girl in my classes, and it didn't help that I was smarter than the boys. I retired in 1973. That's the year I got noticed. While I'm retired, I mentor a young Native American woman. I died 3 months shy of my 100th birthday.
Successful, intelligent, and dedicated. Those are some words that describe me. Hello, my name is Ella Baker. I'm a well-known human activist and behind-the-scenes organizer. You may know me from the Civil Rights Movement because I have worked with popular leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., Thurgood Marshall, and Thurgood Marshall. I'm originally from Norfolk, Virginia, but I grew up in Littleton, North Carolina. Not only did I grow up there, but I went to school there and graduated from there. In school, I was always an active participant. I paid attention, joined clubs, and even set up my own organizations. Because in life, people can steal many things from you, but your education is not one of them. Thank you for your time.
Never compromise who you are personally to become who you wish to be professionally. Hi, my name is Janice Barnhauer. I was born September 1st, 1952, and lived in Tabora, North Carolina. I studied humanity and English at North Carolina A&T, then enrolled in an integrated school in the Deep South for girls. I had a temporary job at Billboard, then I moved to Beverly Hills in 1978 to open up my own business called Act One. If you didn't know what Act One is, it's a group to keep human resources safe for businesses. Today, I'm known to be the first African-American woman to run a $1 billion business and be its CEO. Now I'm currently married and I own many residential and commercial properties. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Andrew Carnegie. I was born November 25th, 1835. Me and my family were immigrants. We were very poor. I had to get a job at age 13 at a cotton industry. Every single year I got higher and higher up, but finally I started making my own industry, the Carnegie Steel industry. I sold my industry for $368 million to JP Morgan. I didn't want to die a rich man, so I donated all my money to charity and people who needed it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm successful African-American entrepreneur Maggie Lena Walker. I was born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. Lancaster School of Virginia is where I attended school. Every day after school, I would come home and wash other families' laundry as a job to make money. Our family was poor and my mother couldn't obtain a real job. After high school, I attended Virginia Union University, where I received my master's degree in teaching and education. My first teaching job was at the Lancaster School of Virginia, but my time there was short. In 1886, I married Armstead Walker, which unfortunately cost me my job due to a policy that didn't allow teachers to be married. Soon after, I began volunteering at an organization called the Independent Order of St. Luke. This organization identified and provided for the needs of African Americans, such as health and life insurance. My life had been divided between work and family for the past decade. In 1890, I gave birth to my first son, Russell, and my second son, Armstead, who died as an infant. In 1897, I was announced secretary of the organization. After taking on a more significant role in the organization, things became financially unstable. But in 1901, I devised a plan to save the organization. As you may have guessed, that's exactly what I did. I founded an African American newspaper called the St. Luke Herald. Its purpose was to inform the people of the events and happenings at the organization. In 1903, I founded a bank in honor of the organization, called the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. In doing this, I became the first female bank president of any race, and I served as president until 1932. During the last few years of my life, I was confined to a wheelchair due to a condition called diabetes. I later died on December 15, 1934. Today, the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank and the Independent Order of St. Luke are National Historic Sites in Virginia. Again, I am Maggie Lena Walker. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Octaviano Lara Solo. I was born on December 7, 1859, in a small town in Mexico named Valle de Allende in the state of Chihuahua. I studied there at the age of 6, but decided to drop out because my teacher was very mean and beat me. I later immigrated to the United States of America, searching for a better education. I mostly went to private schools, and in high school, I got a scholarship for a university named St. Michael's University. I studied there in becoming a teacher and in law. I later became a teacher, but I continued to study law at night after work. I later moved states to New Mexico and registered there as a Democrat. I gave out public speeches about equality and other subjects. I started to gain popularity and started to run for governor of New Mexico. I didn't win the election, but I didn't lose hope yet. So I gave out more public speeches about equality and other subjects, and I gained more and more popularity. I started to run for governor again and was the 4th governor of New Mexico and the first ever Hispanic governor of the United States of America. I later moved states back to Arizona, and I went back to Mexico to live a peaceful life, where I died in 1930 and September 7th at the age of 70. Thank you.
You may know me as Dorothy Gale, Hannah Brown, or Jane Foleyberry, but behind all the characters is me, Judy Garland. I was born on a warm summer's day on June 10th, 1922 in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. I was born, I freaking lost my spot.
You were the youngest of 3.
How do you know it?
I remember things fast.
Okay, I was the youngest of 3 daughters, and I was the youngest of 3 daughters, and my 2 older sisters' names are Dorothy and Mary. I later moved to Lancaster, California, and had an audition at the MGM Studios. And I sang Zing, and they loved me and signed me immediately. After that, I was casted as Dorothy Gale in The Wizard of Oz. I loved singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and after that, I was casted in Meet Me in St. Louis. This was one of my biggest films because I was the lead woman in the movie. After that, I was casted in The Pirate, and it didn't do so well because I didn't show up to 99 out of 105 of the set days. So MGM suspended my contract after 15 years. Later on, I signed a 3-year contract with CBS, and I had my own show for 2 years called The Judy Garland Show. After that, I died in 1969 due to an accidental overdose. Thank you for listening to my story.
Have you ever dreamed of making your mark on the world, one that everyone will ever remember you for? Well, I have. Hi, my name is Mamie Smith. I was the first African-American vocalist to ever record blues music and one of many amazing blues singers to ever be discovered. But I didn't start that way. I was born May 26, 1883 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Growing up, due to my racial background, I wasn't given the opportunity to go to school. So all that free time, I began dancing. I was so good by the age of 10 I left Cincinnati to go on tour with a white group called the Four Dancing Mitchells. But I didn't stop there. Performing with various acts, I began forming interest in music and began singing. Performing in my group called Mamie Smith and Her Jazz Hounds. Performing with every could until I found my big break in 1920. I became the first African-American vocalist to ever record blues music after singing my version of Perry Bradford's Crazy Blues and It's Right Here For You on Oakland Records. Being such a success, I became the first artist to be signed to Race Records, changed the game for blues music. As I continued the successful music career, appearing in several films, and setting the standard for all blues singers to follow in my footsteps, sadly, my success came to an end September 16, 1946. I died in Staten Island, New York City, leaving my mark for all blues singers, big and small, to love and remember me for. Thank you for listening.
Do you know what it's like to go, or to be an immigrant and to go to a politician? If not, hello, my name is Dalip Singh Sand, and I'm an American politician from India. I was born in 1899 in Punjab, India, where I got an education from Punjab University. And in 1919, I decided to move to America. But from what I heard of how people are being treated at Ellis Island, I thought it was going to be a complete train wreck. But I was wrong. After smoothly being accepted as an American citizen, I moved and settled in California, where I studied agriculture at the University of California. And in the summer of 1925, I decided to become a farmer in the Imperial Valley of California. When I first ran for Justice of the People, I was discarded because I hadn't been an American citizen for long enough. And at the time, I did know about the prevailing, or for those who don't know your vocabulary, existing discrimination against Asians at the time. My claim to fame, or why it was important, is I was the first Asian senator in American history. And if I hadn't become a senator, people of America probably wouldn't have seen a different colored person or a different race be at such a high government position for a long time, or segregation laws might have been slightly different. I died at April 22nd, 1973, at 73 years old, in California.
Hello, my name is Minnie Evans. I was born December 12th, 1892 in Long Creek, Pender County, North Carolina. My mother was Ella Jones and my father was George Moore. My mother had me at 13 and my father 14. My father soon left us 2 months later, and my mother and me were forced to move to Wilmington, North Carolina with my grandmother, Minnie Evans. I went to school until 6th grade when I dropped out because of family finances and because I had these weird day visions and dreams that affected my daily life. At the age of 16, I met my husband, Julius Caesar Evans, and had 3 sons, George, David, and Elisha. Soon I got employed at Pembroke Park. A couple years later, on a Good Friday in 1935, I drew my first drawing, which was a pen ink drawing. The second day, before Easter Sunday, I drew my second. A couple years later, I got a job as a gatekeeper at Arley Gardens. It was a real inspiration for me with the lush green grass that for my symmetrical drawings and everything. Then in 1982, I died of natural causes, and a couple years later, a couple of college art students built a bottle chapel for me in honor of what I did, designed with my artwork. My name is Minnie Evans. Thank you for listening.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. Sorry, I was working on the latest choreography for my dance students at the Debbie Allen Dance Academy. Let me introduce myself. Hello, I'm Deborah K. Allen, also known as Debbie Allen. I was born January 16, 1950 in Houston, Texas, the third child to Arthur Allen and Vivian Ayers. I have 3 siblings, Tex Allen, who is the oldest, Felicia Rashad, who is the second oldest, and lastly, Hugh Allen, who is the youngest. By the age of 4, I became determined to become a professional dancer. My parents graciously enrolled me in dance classes at the age of 5. However, sadly, in 1957, my parents divorced, leaving my mother as a main caregiver for my siblings and I. My mother decided to move us to Mexico to escape U.S. racism after the divorce. We stayed in Mexico for a few years until my mother decided to move us back to Houston. I remember how much of a challenge it was to move back. There was still a lot of racism going on. When I was 12, I auditioned for the Houston Ballet School, but I was rejected because of the color of my skin. Later, when I was 16 years old, I auditioned for the North Carolina School of the Arts, but was also rejected because they said that my body was unsuited for ballet. This is a criticism often used for African Americans to try to discourage them. This rejection hit me very hard, so for the rest of high school, I focused only on my studies. However, I graduated Howard University in 1971 with a degree in drama. After college, I landed a few chorus roles in Broadway shows, but I didn't hit it big until 1980. After starring in a Broadway revival of West Side Story, it landed me a Tony nomination, eventually leading to a role as a dance instructor in the movie Fame, 1980. The exposure from this movie allowed me to be involved in other films and help direct them as well. I've been nominated 11 awards for my choreography and have actually won 3 of them. Back to what I was saying earlier, in 2001 I opened the Debbie Allen Dance Academy. This is a nonprofit school that offers dance curriculum from ages 4 to 18 regardless of financial status. Currently I am married to former NBA star Norman Nixon, and I have 3 children, Vivian Nixon, Norman Nixon Jr., and lastly Devon Nixon. The most important quote that I have said is, "But out of limitations comes creativity." I was faced with many restraints in life, but I never let these hold me back. And because of this, I've made significant contributions to advance America. I'm a standing example of what a female can accomplish, let alone an African American. Thank you for listening.
My name is Gwendolyn Bennett, and I was born in 1902 on July 18th. When I was born, my parents were teachers in the Indian Bureau, and when I turned 6 years old, they decided to divorce. And after their divorcement, my dad had kidnapped me and forced me to move to Brooklyn, New York to live with my stepmother. He then forced me to go to Girls High School in Brooklyn, New York, and from there I graduated in 1921. I then moved to Paris to continue my art career, but I had to move back to America due to my art school burning. When I came back, I was a part of the Harlem Renaissance and the Great Depression of the 1930s era. I then died May 30th, 1981 due to natural causes. Thank you for listening.
You always have two choices, your commitment versus your fear. Always follow your dreams and come up. You can be good, great, just like me. You may or may not know me, but I am Sammy Davis Jr. I was born December 8th, 1925 in Harlem, New York. Growing up, my childhood was very giving because I had two successful parents, and they also introduced me into tap dancing. I joined their dance group called the Wills Mastins Trio, and I performed with them on stage at the very young age of 4. I performed with them for about a decade as I wanted to pursue my own career of mine. But my career was interrupted when I was drafted into the military at the age of 18 in 1943 for the Second World War. I entertained soldiers if they had something good to think about besides the war, as I sing, dance, and told jokes to every soldier. I wasn't there long as I left to pursue my dream to become an actor. I met up with a friend named Frank Sinatra as we started the group called the Rat Pack. As the stock sold out, we sold out movies, theaters, TV shows, concerts, and nightclubs. But my career took a dip when I was involved in a car accident, which made me lose my left eye in 1954. I immediately bounced back within a year, and I started starring in more movies and TV shows. You may have even seen me in The Jeffersons. But that didn't stop me. I was still on my grind.
My name is Wilfredo Lema. I was most known for my career paintings and imagination. I was born on December 8, 1902, on Sago La Grande, Cuba. My family settled in Havana when I was 14. When I was 16, I started to study art at Havana School of Fine Arts. On 1937, I settled in Barcelona and came in contact with a much more dynamic artistic community. I died on September 11, 1982 at the age of 80. Thank you for listening.
Bam, like I went off and the body tumbled up to the missus. One bullet struck my neck, the next bullet struck my head. My name is John F. Kennedy, and I was an American politician who served 35th President of the United States of America. I was born May 29, 1917. I attended a boys' Catholic boarding school in Connecticut, Massachusetts, where I fancied in English and history, but nearly flunked in Latin, for which I had no interest. Despite my father's constant reprimands, I was a poor student and mischievous boy. I had an illness during my childhood, so I missed months of school at a time because it occasionally brought me to the brink of death. I served my term through January 6, 1961, till my death on March 22, 1963. Before my death, though, I made many contributions to America. For example, I supported the civil rights movement, negotiated a nuclear test ban treaty, and initiated the Progress Alliance with Latin America. Thank you for listening.
I was one of the most intelligent people in the world. Not everyone could win a Nobel Peace Prize by just doing nothing. I had to work long and hard for it. Born on June 13, 1911 in San Francisco, California, I, Luis Walter Alvarez, was best known for winning a Nobel Peace Prize and also coming up with the theory that the dinosaurs were extinct because of an asteroid. I was very intelligent and had a big passion for physics. I was highly talented and I had a high imagination. Besides doing all the normal work you expect a physicist to do, I took more unusual tasks, like make use of cosmic rays to find hidden chambers in the Egyptian pyramids. My childhood was an unordinary childhood. I didn't like the things the other kids did, like sports and games. I liked building stuff. I built a radio at the age of 11 with the help of my father after reading an article about it. I was named after my grandfather, and both my father and grandfather were physicists just like I was. I had 3 siblings named Gladys, Bernice, and Bob. I made up a theory that the dinosaurs were extinct because of an asteroid. I wanted to know how or why they were gone. So I came up with this theory and it might turn out to be true. I also find the uranium layer on the earth and everything I achieved. I deserve everything I achieved. After all the fame spotlight, I was still a very intelligent man and tried to contribute to America the best I could. I had 2 sons named Walter Alvarez and another named Donald Alvarez. Walter Alvarez became a professor at the Earth and Planetary Science Department at the University of California.
If one can, anyone can. All you gotta do is try. I bet you heard of Leonardo da Vinci, Pablo Picasso, even Vincent van Gogh. But what about Faith Ringgold? No? Well, hi. I'm Faith Ringgold, born as Faith Will Jones on October 8, 1930, during the Great Depression. But that doesn't mean I was poor or anything. As I was younger, I had problems with my breathing. That meant I spent most of my time home with my mother, a fashion designer. She taught me how to sew, but my passion for art came first. As I got older, I was accepted into New York City College, and I wanted to major in art, but I couldn't, because first I was African American, and second I was a female. and that made me mad. But that's also what drove me to fight for what was right. I fought for all African Americans and females who wanted to be artists, and that made the school change their minds, and I received my bachelor's degree in 1959. As I was working on getting my master's degree, I received that in 1959. As I was attempting to get my autobiography published, I was unsuccessful. But the dedication of my mother who passed, I started making story quotes, something I'm most famous for. As of today, I'm the age of 87. Thank you for listening.
You cannot live your life looking at yourself through someone else's point of view. Imagine coming from a family where you had just what you needed to survive. You came to a new country to study ballet and English with a return ticket, expecting to go back home after 3 months. But things didn't exactly go as planned. Buen dia. Good day. My name is Penelope Cruz. I contributed to America by becoming the first Spanish actress to win an Academy Award, and I'm going to tell you my story. I was born on April 28, 1978 in Alcobendas, Madrid, Spain. I was the oldest of 3 born to my father, Eduardo Cruz, and my mother, Encarna Sanchez. My dad was a car mechanic, and my mother was a hairdresser. Growing up, I would always reenact TV commercials because I wanted to be an actress someday. But because of the way I grew up, just a dream about that coming true sounded like science fiction. Although a natural performer, at the age of 5, my parents enrolled me at the Spain National Conservatory where I studied ballet for 9 years. At the age of 14, we came to New York for me to pursue theater. Here I won a talent agency competition, beating 300 of the girls in the process. Due to this early success, I continued to land many roles in Spanish TV and music videos. In 1992, I made my big film debut when I got cast for the role in Jamón Jamón. My resume continued to grow as I would get cast for 3 more films each year for the next 3 years. In 1997, when I got the role for Isabel Plaza Cabellera in the movie Carne Tremula with producer Pedro Obrador, they became my lifelong friend and my ticket to international fame. I was featured in many well-respected films that I was wanted on both sides of the Atlantic. At the age of 22, I decided to move to Hollywood, California, where I played many roles from drug trafficking dramas in Blow to comedies in Zoolander. I even dated Tom Cruise. I became the first Spanish actress to win an Academy Award for my performance in Vicky Cristina Barcelona. In addition to acting, I have a fierce dedication for charity. I've worked with reformed gang members, recovering drug addicts, and Mother Teresa. To this day, I continue to act, but I'd rather spend time with my family in Spain. I'm married to Javier Barnum, and I have 2 kids with him named Leo and Luna Encinas Cruz. My name is Penelope Cruz. Thank you for listening.
Hello, I'm Gordon Parks. People believe I'm an influential American because I'm smart, focused, and creative. I also take care of my kids, and I'm a musician, composer, a writer, but mainly do photography. I was born December 30th, 1912 in Fort Scott, Kansas. When I was born premature, so the doctor tried every possible way to save me, and he did. When I grew up, I went to a segregated elementary school and high school, but during that time, my parents died when I was in elementary school, so it was very hard to keep my mind off things because I couldn't do no clubs or sports because of segregation. Even though I was mostly known as a photographer, I made 26 movies, 11 books, and made 3 songs. I had 3 wives and had 4 kids. My wives' names were Elizabeth Campbell, Sally Alvis, and Gina Vignon. My kids' names was David Parks Parkson, Leslie Parks, and Tony Parks Parkson. People believe I've impacted this world because my photos showed segregation for the people of color, and during that time, I had 2 awards. 2 of my awards were the NAACP Hall of Fame Award, and the other one was the Anisfield Wolf Book Award. I died of cancer on March 7, 2006. Thank you for listening. I'm Gordon Parks.
I'm Eli Whitney. I'm an inventor. I made machines, guns, and a car engine. I owned my own business when I was 14. I influenced the American economy. If I didn't, interchangeable parts of machinery wouldn't be as good as today. Thanks for listening.
Have you ever been a role model in somebody's life? Well, I have. Hi, my name is Dominique Dawes. I was born November 28, 1976 in Silver Spring, Maryland, with my mother and father, Loretta and Don Dawes. I also grew up with an older sister and a younger brother, Daniela and Don Dawes. I started taking gymnastics lessons at the age of 6, and I was able to be a part of the 14 youth category at age 9. I would always write determination on my board to help me prepare even more for one of my gymnastics meets. I went to the University of Maryland and also received my bachelor's degree from there as well. In 1988, I was able to be a part of the U.S. Nationals gymnastics team. In 1992, I was also part of the Magnificent Seven and a part of the Olympics team. I am now a motivational speaker for young children who want to be a role model like me. Once again, my name is Dominique Dawes, and thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Catherine Cortez Master. I was born on March 29, 1964 in Las Vegas, Nevada. My parents' names were Manny and Joanna Cortez. My father was of Mexican descent and my mother was Italian descent. My father was a longtime head of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitor Authority. My parents always thought that I would step in and run the family business, but I somehow fell in love with the law. I attended the University of Nevada, Reno. After I graduated, I went to the Gonzaga School of Law. Turns out law school wasn't so easy. They tell you, look to your left, look to your right, nobody's going to be right next to you. I thought of what that meant, and I decided that I can't always be dependent on people for the answers. After I graduated law school, I became an official lawyer. For 4 years, I was an attorney, and for 2 years, I was a crime prosecutor. After, I was chosen to be Ron Heed's replacement in the 2016 re-election. My opponent was Joe Heck. I had 47% of the vote, and Ron was behind 45%. After I won the election, I took his place on January 3rd, 2017. When I became senator, I helped to protect Nevada families, and I also passed down a law to stop manufacturing drugs and selling them. Today, I am most known for being the first Latina senator in the USA. Thank you for listening.
I got a bronze medal, can't complain. The first African American to get a medal in the Winter Olympics. Hi, I'm Debbie Janina Thomas, and I'm the first African American figure skater. I was born March 25th, 1967, in Poughkeepsie, New York. My husband is Jamie Looney. My son is Luke Bennett. My mother and father are Janice and McKinley Thomas, and my brother is Richard Taylor. I was 5 years old when I first stepped into the rink. At 9 years old, I got my first lessons, and at 10 years old, I signed with Coach Alex McGuan, and at 12 years old, I won a silver medal at the national finals. One of my struggles were people not taking me seriously because of my skin color. They thought I was there to make fun of myself or entertain them. But I surely proved them wrong when I got all of my medals. My biggest struggle was going bankrupt. I lost my money, my skates, and I almost lost custody of my child. But now I'm focusing on my second accomplishment, which was becoming a surgeon. I'm now enjoying life, playing in the snow with my husband, Jamie Looney. Thank you for listening.
The Hall of Fame is far beyond what you could dream of. Hi, my name is Seb Ramos. I'm most known for being a professional soccer player and coach of the United States soccer team. I was born on September 21st, 1966 in Montevideo, Uruguay. When I was young, my father played professional soccer in a team of River Plate. I then, at the age of 11, came to the United States to follow my dreams of becoming a professional. I then became citizen of the United States and attended St. Benedict's Preparatory School. During my school year, I signed up for the soccer team and became top scorer of New Jersey, and I still hold the record of 161 goals in less than one season. I then left high school and went to NC State College to follow my dreams of becoming a professional. But I then left shortly after playing in 1988 in the 1988 Summer Olympics. After the Olympics, I then got my first contract offer to play professional for the New Jersey Metro Stars. After playing 7 years with them, I then went to Spain to play in Real Betis for 2 years. During those years, I also played professional and international soccer with the United States. During a World Cup game against Brazil, I then left shortly. During a World Cup game against Brazil, my opponent elbowed me in my head, which caused a major injury. Because of my injuries, the doctor said I had to retire, even though I didn't want to. So I then retired because of my injuries, and I never gave up. So I am now 51, and I go around the world to help young players reach their dreams. And I am also head coach of the United States U20 soccer team. Thank you for listening.
My name is Percy Julian, and I'm a scientist. 50% of the way of the soybean is protein. And what are proteins? This is a quote of mine that I said because I'm an organic chemist who synthesizes different products from the substances of soybeans and other organic vegetables. I'm also an inventor and a civil rights activist. I was born on April 11th, 1899 in Montgomery, Alabama. In 1920, I majored in chemistry and graduated as valedictorian in my class at DePaul University. After graduation, I studied chemistry at Frisk University for 2 years before being awarded an Austin Fellowship to Harvard University, where I completed my master's degree in organic chemistry. After that, I focused on the synthesis of drugs to help treat conditions such as glaucoma, arthritis, and help prevent miscarriages. In 1933, my colleague Joseph and I were the first people to complete the first total synthesis of physostigmine, which was used since the 20th century to treat glaucoma. During World War II, I invented aerofoam from soybean protein, which was used to extinguish oil and gas fires. Countless U.S. Navy lives were saved because of my invention. In 1949, I developed a new synthesis for a substance S, differing from cortisone by only an oxygen atom. From this substance, I was able to synthesize both cortisone and hydrocortisone. Unfortunately, I died on April 19th, 1975 due to liver cancer.
I'm Frederick Carlton Lewis, but you could call me Carl. When I was growing up, it was rough. I grew up with my mom, my dad, and my other 3 siblings. We didn't really have none, but we had enough. Everybody in my house was athletic, so it was natural that I fell into sports. I started to run track at the age of 11. From there, I went on to go to the University of Houston, where then I ended up winning 9 gold medals, the second most African American since Jesse Owens. I am now married to Maria Lewis, and I have no kids. I also got drafted to the Dallas Cowboys, even though I never played a down enough football in college or high school. That is my speech.
21 siblings, double pneumonia, scarlet fever, polio, and a lost leg couldn't stop me from doing more than the average person. I was like a tornado. I was unstoppable, unbeatable, something you never seen before. I, Wilma Rudolph, was the fastest woman alive. My journey started June 23rd, 1940 in St. Bethlehem, Tennessee. I was kid 20 out of 22 born at Adam Blanching. At a young age, I was diagnosed with many diseases and illnesses. Until age 9, I looked for a way out of my leg braces. My siblings were my way out. They would cover for me and be my lookout while I took my braces off and tried to walk. They played a huge role in my recovery. Every day, they would take turns massaging my crippled leg. At age 11, my brother set up a basketball hoop in the yard for me to play. When my parents saw me play, they saw the undeniable talent I had and supported my athletic journey. At age 16, just 4 years after fully recovering from my lost leg, I went on to be the youngest member of the U.S. track and field team. At age 20, 4 years after that, I became the first American woman to win 3 gold medals in one Olympics. This broke gender barriers and eventually made allowances for females to compete in once all-male events. In addition to being an athlete, I was also a civil rights activist. Growing up in the 1940s in the South wasn't easy. As I said previously, at a young age, I was diagnosed with many diseases and illnesses and couldn't be treated properly because the hospitals nearby only treated whites only. I had to travel long distances, 90 miles, could you imagine, just for me to be able to go to a hospital that would treat me. As my track career continued on, I faced discrimination, sometimes not being allowed to sleep in the same rooms or houses as my fellow athletes. When I was heading home from the Rome Olympics, I heard that the governor of my hometown was planning on holding a banquet and parade in my honor, but I made it known that I would not attend if it was segregated. My events were the first integrated events in my hometown of Clarksville, Tennessee. When I retired, I participated in many events to get my hometown desegregated. I influenced the American population. Young African-American boys and girls look up to me. After I was the first woman to win 3 gold medals in one Olympics, Flo Jo went on to be the second woman to do so. When I retired, I created the Wilma Rudolph Foundation, which gave academic support and coached young athletes. Even though I passed in 1994 from fighting brain cancer, my legacy still lives on through my children and through the athletes whose heart I've touched. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lopez. I was the first woman to win the Wilmette Award. I started playing golf at the age 8. With my father, Dominguez Lopez. My father, Dominguez Lopez, also loved playing golf as well, so I started playing with him. At the age 8, I was training with him. My father wanted me to join into a club that would get me better. So we went into search for a club. We found a club that was near our home, but I was only allowed because I was a citizen. My father was not allowed because he was not a citizen. So I did not sign up with the club. I went in another search to find another club, and we found one, but it was 200 miles away from home, and we were both allowed to sign up. It did not matter to my father if we had to travel that long distance just to get to the club. So we both signed up. After that, I was already playing for many tournaments. At the age 13, I won my first Olmec Award. At the age 12, I won the New Mexico Olmec Award tournament. And after that, I went to the University of Tulsa for a 2-year golf scholarship. During I was in the university, I was already considered a professional golfer. I won Rookie of the Year award and Player of the Year award in the same time while I was in the university. I was inducted into the Hall of Fame of LPGA and inducted into the Hall of Fame of PGA. I won several award tournaments, and I won 48 victories. Out of the 48 victories, I had won 3 major tournaments out of there. I got married in 1979 with Tim Milton. After 3 years of marriage, I got divorced to him in 1982. And shortly after I got divorced, in 1982, I was married to Ray Knights. I was married to Ray Knights for 27 years and had 3 daughters with him, Ashley Knights, Erin Knights, and Tori Knights. But after 27 years, I got divorced to him in 2009. I am still alive and I am still playing I'm at the age 61. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is John Brown. I was born on May 9th, 1800. When I was growing up, I was raised in a very religious family. Throughout my life, I experienced fighting against slavery. But the thing that makes me famous is raiding Harper's Ferry. This is important because I stole guns to give to the slaves to overpower their owners. I was shortly executed after committing this act. I died on December 2nd, 1859, but my name still lives on the day. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed.
Hi, I'm Robert De Niro. I was born August 17th, 1943 in Greenwich Village, New York, New York. As a child, I went to movies with my father, Robert De Niro Sr., but not often due to him being a famous painter/sculptor. Since this happening, I was primarily raised by my mother, Virginia Admiral. As a child of age 10, I auditioned for the part of the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz. Then, in high school, I was accepted in the prestigious High School of Music and Arts, but after being overwhelmed, quit only after a few days. The movie I had my big break in was in Raging Bull, and I have had several awards, including the Academy Award winner for Best Actor, the Kennedy Center Honors, and the AFI Life Achievement Award. I've gone through several struggles in my life, including when I found out about my father's homosexuality. My father describes his gayness as an affliction, but I accepted and actually made a documentary about him. Another struggle I went through was on the date of September 11th, 2001, when I witnessed the Twin Towers being hit by the plane. I was devastated since this was my hometown, but that's why I fed the workers to clean up the rubble, because I care for the people in New York. Besides on the date of 9/11, I've not done any charity work, but I've helped my communities in other ways. For example, I opened the Tribeca Performing Arts Center to teach students how to act and produce in movies. Every year the school holds a festival called the Tribeca Film Festival, and it's held in New York for the award movies and music. Some of the movies that have been nominated is General Magic, Bethany Hamilton Unstoppable, and House 2. Inclusion, Robert De Niro is an influential American. He's helped his community in several ways, and there are 3 ways to describe him: serious, giving, straightforward. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Amy John Rodriguez, and I was born on February 17, 1987 in Lake Forest, California. I grew up in Lake Forest, California, where I went to Santa Marita Catholic High School in Rancho Santa Margarita. I'm the second generation Cuban American because my dad, John Rodriguez, was the first one to be born here, who then married my mom, Lori Rodriguez. When I was little, my parents wanted me to play sports, so I had activities to do, but the one that I liked the most was soccer. I'm most known for being a female soccer player in the USA team. In my senior year, it was where the fame for me started. I scored 17 goals in 15 games. After that, I got named the Player of the Year by Parade magazines. In 2008 Summer Olympics, I won gold medals in 2012 as well in 2015 World Cup. After I met John Rodriguez, we got married and had a child named Ryan John Shillings. Later after this, it was difficult for me to get back on the field because of pregnancy. During that time, I said I wasn't ready to hang my cleats up. I wanted to get back on the field and continue to play. And today, I still play for the USA team.
Even though you might be one of the people being put down as a human, you can still work to help other people who are going through similar struggles. A person who would do this would be very extraordinary. Hello, I'm Elaine Brown, an American prison activist, writer, singer, and a former Black Panther Party chairwoman. In fact, I was the first and only woman to lead the Black Panther Party. You now might be wondering what the Black Panther Party was. Well, it was originally to help protect African American neighborhoods, and I believe I did just that. I was born March 2nd, 1943, and I'm currently 75 years old. I was born in Philadelphia, PA, and I'm a natural-born citizen. As a child, I went to a predominantly white experimental elementary school where I studied ballet and classical piano. Later in life, I entered Temple University, but then left before my first year ended. As you may know, I was a part of the Black Panther Party, which I was most known for. I helped protect African American neighborhoods even though I was also at risk of being attacked as much as they did. Remember, you could jail a revolutionary, but you cannot jail a revolution. My name is Elaine Brown. Thank you for listening.
From the time I can first recall the rain falling in Red Clay in Florida, I wanted to make things. When my brothers and sisters were making mud pies, I would be making small little animal figures like ducks and chicken. Hi, my name is Augusta Savage. Throughout my life, I experienced racism and sexism because I was black. I wasn't allowed to go to college because of my race. I created a bus with my nephew called Jammin', and that won me a scholarship to go to school. I was eventually part of the Harlem Renaissance and became the first African American to be elected into the National Association of Women Painters and Sculptors. Later in life, I settled down and became a summer camp art teacher, eventually passing away from cancer. I hope my inspiration has gotten to you and you go out and create something new. Thanks for listening.
My name is Ray Charles. I was born in 1930. I went blind at the age of 7. My mom was really supportive of me. She worked in a sawmill, washed people's clothes for extra money. So it was a big deal for her to send me away to a state-sponsored school, I learned the piano. Unfortunately, I became an orphan at the age of 17. I moved on and went on tours. Eventually getting the nickname Father of Soul. You might hear some of my songs, Hit the Road Jack or Georgia, even though my legacy passed in a Hall of Fame rock and roll band. Thank you for listening.
My name is Gwendolyn Bennett. I am an African-American black woman who was born in 1902 in Giddings, Texas on July 18th. When I was born, my parents were teachers in the Indian Bureau, and when I turned 6 years old, my father and mother divorced, and after the divorcement, my father had kidnapped me and forced me to move to Brooklyn, New York to live with my stepmother. He then forced me to attend girls' high school, and I graduated from there in 1921 and moved to Paris to continue my art career. I was then forced to move back to America due to my art school burning down. When I came back to America, I was a part of the Harlem Renaissance era and the Great Depression 1930s era. May 30th in Reddings, PA, I died due to natural causes. Thank you for listening.
Taking the court, catching everybody's attention. Boom, I dunked. Yup, I was the first female basketball player to dunk. My name is Cheryl Miller. I grew up in Riverside, California, and was the third of 5 children. During my childhood, I liked to play in basketball games against my brothers, which helped me improve my skills. By the time I reached high school, I was 6'2", an amazing basketball player and scoring 37 points per game. By the end of my high school years, I was recruited as female athlete of all time. After high school, I went on playing basketball by attending the University of California State. During my years of playing and attending for the school, I led them to a national title and was named the most outstanding player for the NCAA tournament of the second year. Leaving the school with a good legacy, I later came back to be a coach. During my years of coaching, I looked for a high level of work and improvement on skills for my girls, so I led them with lots of motivation and input. I resigned in 2000 to become a broadcaster for a men's professional basketball game, in which I was the first female to do. Even though I like to broadcast, I did not continue broadcasting for long. I became a coach once again, but for California State, LA. My name is Cheryl Miller. Thank you for listening.
How are you doing? So I want to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered where the basis of black culture and music started? Well, then I have a lot to tell you. My story starts a long time ago in my hometown of Detroit, Michigan, where I was born on November 28, 1929. I had a pretty rough start to life considering where I am today. I was the 7th born child of my parents' 8 kids. From early on in life, music was a big part of who I was. As I grew older, I still enjoyed music, so I joined my high school band as a singer. I struggled academically, which got me kicked out of the band, so I decided to drop out of high school and pursue a career in professional boxing. I was successful in boxing with 13 wins out of 19 fights, but I soon realized boxing was bringing me to the grave far faster than I could possibly imagine. So I gave it up and went back to music with songwriting. Not long after I started writing songs again, I was drafted into the war. While in the Army, I earned my GED. After being released from the Army, I decided to start up a jazz record store with a friend. But this business failed because people weren't interested in jazz anymore. They wanted to hear R&B. I was known to be a ladies' man, and so I got married in 1953. To support my wife and I had to get a job. So I decided to work at Lincoln Mercury plant on the assembly line. The only upside to this horrible job is I had a lot of time to think and create songs in my head. Finally, I decided to devote myself to music one more time. So I handed in my notice at Lincoln Mercury plant and started working with Jackie Wilson's manager with songwriting and publishing. I made a couple of hits with them and decided to go out on my own and start my own record publishing company, which I named Jobette. Jobette is a combination of my 3 eldest children's names, which are Joy, Barry, and Terry. This business wasn't as lucrative as I had hoped, so I decided to start my own record label, which I named Tamla Records, but later changed the name to Motown Records because Motown was one of Tamla's labels. Motown was making hit after hit and soon became the first African-American-owned record label to gain national acclaim. Some of the artists who were signed to Motown Records were Gladys Knight and the Pips, the Four Tops, the Temptations, and the Jackson 5. Artists who were signed to Motown's record label began to leave the label because artists believed that Motown's contracts generally didn't favor the artists. Artists believed that being charged for studio time and the rate not being claimed as their own wasn't fair. Due to the departure of many Motown artists and the change in the industry's direction in music, I decided to sell Motown to MCA. In 1988, I was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then in 2016, I was honored by President Barack Obama, among other cultural icons, with the National Medal of the Arts for my time as a record producer and a songwriter, helping build Motown and launching the careers of countless legendary artists. My unique sound helped shape our nation's story. Thank you for listening.
After all, a girl is, well, a girl. It's nice to be told you're successful at it. Hey, I'm Rita Hayworth, also known as the Love Goddess. I was originally born as Margarita Carmen Cancino on October 17, 1918 in Brooklyn, New York. My parents, Eduardo Cancino and Volga Hayworth, were both professional dancers. I was also the eldest sister of Vermin Cancino and Eduardo Cancino Jr. With both parents being professional dancers, I, of course, took in dancing as well. It wasn't until the age of 8 where I began to launch my acting and dancing career. I appeared in my first film in 1926, the Warner Bros. Film, La Fiesta. From then on, I began to launch my career during the late 30s and 40s. Despite all the fame and glory, my personal life wasn't all glamorous. I was forced to alter my appearance due to Hollywood not knowing where to place me in the industry because I was part Latino, which was dominated by white standards of beauty. This is when I decided to change my name to Rita Hayworth. It was my mother's maiden name, and it was more pleasing to hear as a stage name. I appeared in my most successful film, Gilda, where I played Gilda, the main character, who stole the hearts of men. But with successes comes hardships. I fell in love many times, but I was unsuccessful at keeping a stable relationship. I suffered from 5 failed marriages, which caused me depression and alcoholism. It was depression and alcoholism. Oh God. I attempted to launch my Broadway career in the late 70s, but it was affected due to my inability to remember my lines. Little did I know I was suffering from Alzheimer's disease, but it wasn't until 1980 where I was officially diagnosed. But with failures comes accomplishments, of course. I entertained America and kept people happy during the bloodshed of World War II, the bloodiest conflict and largest war in history. I also appeared on the cover of the Life magazine in 1940, and all my successes in acting and dancing allowed me to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I also attempted to inspire many young lives to follow their dreams, because during this time, many people were unmotivated and lost hope because of what was going on in the world. I also try to empower equal rights for women, because during this time period, women weren't treated equal, and we had very little rights and were discriminated against because of men. Unfortunately, due to my Alzheimer's disease, I passed away at the age of 68 on May 14th, 1987. But my reputation still lives on to this day as one of the most successful actresses of my time, appearing in over 61 films in a span of 37 years. I entertained America during the tragedy of this time, World War II. I, Rita Hayworth, a pinup symbol, showed to people that you can follow your dreams despite all the risk. I also showed that women as well can do the same thing as men, and we are all capable of doing anything we set our minds to. Thank you for listening.